And I first wanted to say it's important for us all to be sharing this space together, and it's important for us all to center into one another and to be able to connect. And even the times that we're experiencing now is bringing us closer together. Could you hit that switch for me, please? And the build for today is a very powerful build, and hence that initial buildup of energy, and then it's almost like, okay, how do we relax and get this energy to smooth its way through the portal properly, and for all of us to be able to get what we need to get in this day, in this time, and hear what we need to hear as far as our special and our unique connection. And so it looks like that someone is saying that the broadcast isn't actually happening. So I need to kind of like confirm that. So let me give it a minute, and then I'll wait for a confirmation that everything is broadcasting, and then I'll give it a go. It's just the more that I open up, when I open up stations to check, it seems like that is messing with the bandwidth just a little bit. Okay, so somebody says it's all good there. Somebody said it's live on YouTube. Everything's all clear. So if you're on any station, maybe Facebook, any other places that it doesn't appear clear, even Secret Energy TV, because we needed to change out the stream link, and because we had this initial technical issue, we reset it. So we need to reset it there. So as of right now, so we could go ahead and go right into this, because now it's gotten me fired up. So now I got to transmute that energy. And so here we go. So we started, of course, with our honoring for those that did not hear that, and those who did not connect in with that. We giving honor and respect to our ancestors who are taking us through yet another level of the journey so that we can level up. And things have gotten really serious around us, and I'm sure that even a lot of the people who were maybe doubting what you were saying on a conscious level and not even tuned in are now calling you and leaving you long messages about their spiritual growth that seems to happen overnight. And that's really what goes on in the activation. And we're grateful, meaning this is not actually a time where we should feel that, this is everything is all over, Chicken Little, the sky is falling. This is the time where you get an opportunity to really show who you are and see yourself. That's another thing. Like, many of us are seeing sides of ourselves that maybe we're either foreign to or haven't seen in a while. But because we've been laying under too many of the filters from this reality. And then now we're getting also a chance to see if that spiritual knowledge that you said that you knew about, and these practices that you said were helping you so much, really, if they work. And it's always great to have one of those scenarios happening, or else we could be running around acting like we're something that we're not. And our ancestors insist that we actually become very firm in what we want to be. We need to decide, what do you want to be? Fix your foundation, choose your foundation. Like, sometimes when we're even looking into the esoteric knowledge, we find that it really does get to a point where you start wondering from your own consciousness, well, why doesn't this God just do this? Or why doesn't it just do that? Or why don't they all get together and hug? And maybe you're not realizing that that's maybe something that you learn to do. But the primal forms, they are exactly what they want to be. They're not trying to change who they are. They're very unmovable in that way. That's why they're holding different parts of the spectrum. And actually, they're more on that side of, you should come and be like me. Not that I'm going to change and become like you. So when you start thinking of all the way from the darkness to the light, all the way from the perfect to the distorted, when you start saying, hey, I want you to be, I wish these beings, or I wish the governments, or I wish, and you project what you want to be, you have to realize that's not how it ever worked anyway. It was about you going through all of these experiences and seeing your reflections, which are others that are around you, go through these experiences, and then you to determine what experience you actually want. You can't do that unless you've seen enough of the experiences. And to determine what you want, have you ever thought you wanted something, then you got it, then you didn't want it. So just because you think you want something is not the confirmation. You have to go through the experience. So even right now, we're going through these experiences, and people are now seeing why they don't want to be dealing with the system that it and how it is conducting itself now. And I will have to dance around words a little bit today as much as possible to keep the stream alive as much as possible. Since the AI, as I said, is now doing the moderating. That's exactly what YouTube said. They're overwhelmed. They don't have people in the office. So they're unleashing AI to basically police the streams and police content that's being uploaded. And if something accidentally gets removed, and oh well, that's what we're doing right now because of and then the one we don't speak of. And what happens with that is that it's just like a perfect scapegoat to implement anything, as you've seen. And so what you have to do while the windows are opening, because this is done by command. This is done by edict. This is not something that they want to do. This is something that they have to do. The system is coming through on a complete cycle of balance and cleansing. Why? Because, well, I'm have at least an hour and a half to explain why. But one of those things is to understand when people are not going to work. Okay? This means they're on Sabbath. And there is a metaphysical Sabbath happening right now where people are not allowed to leave. It's like actually even deeper. It's more of a Passover, if you may, meaning a time in which certain energies are coming through, and now the adepts and the elders and the guides and the teachers and the mamas and the grandmas and everybody else has to hold their space in their station and keep everything, as far as the foundation is concerned, solid. Okay? So as we continue to go on in this experience, we will gain a certain level of awareness and a certain level of knowledge, a certain level of application. So what's most important is that every time something rears itself up that's big, that you don't miss these big opportunities also that are equally in that same essence of energy. Anytime something, if you want to call it negative, let's use that term because it now is very relative. If something negative is happening and it's big, something positive needs to have a connection with that and will have a connection with that. It cannot come into this realm unless it has that tied into it. But this is also the big time where you now write your own book. I mentioned this morning. You have a tree inside of yourself. You are wood. You are a tree. And what that means is your book is being written by you. Yeah? You're writing and you only a couple pages in. You're just learning the language of yourself. So in these times, you get a chance to learn more about yourself. You're even getting a chance to rest. If you could master putting your mind in the right state right now, you have now the time. Most even have some paycheck. Companies right now are like, well, we can't just cut them off. Some have laid off. Unemployment's open. There's a lot of stipends out there. There's a lot of, hey, calling up to the bill place. Hey, you see the world situation. I'm not going to be able to pay. Y'all better not cut my stuff off because I'm going on YouTube and tell on y'all. So right now, unless you're not processing it right, food is available, funds is available. Facebook got 100 million you got out there for small businesses if you want to write something up. So there's all this support that's happening, but also the same people who have always been controlling those channels called the media and always been responsible for keeping everything in haywire, they are projecting a certain message from that blind eyeball. And because most people feel like they need to be informed at every single moment, like if they're not meditating for 20 minutes to go then turn on this TV to figure out if there's been another news briefing or another report or some more statistics, and every time that's being done, you're wasting vital time that you could be spending on building and redeveloping yourself. And this is why truth, seeing you clearly, 2020, seeing you clearly, right? What else, does everything else really matter if you can't see yourself clearly? Because you're going to always see everything through your dense, foggy filter if you don't get clear about yourself. And again, this is not also confusing being clear with being the good one or being the bad one. The gift of being who we are is that we get to choose the balance from both. Nothing in this space, if you get a lot of power and you start misusing that power, you only degrade yourself. If you get a lot of power and then you start utilizing that power in harmony and in balance, you generate things. So there's no one who can really cheat the system here, especially when you understand what the system is. If you actually spent the time for yourself and say, I need to know about myself. People know more about the external gods than they know about themselves. In the ancient times, the descriptions of the external gods was so you can get more familiar with yourself. Now that the tower is broken, if you may, the libraries have been burned, and now one has to look again on the book of themselves. Many now don't have the crutch of the libraries and all those different things to go through to get straight, direct knowledge about it. That's all on purpose too. Because if there's a lot of knowledge and you realize, shoot, I don't know what to believe, I got to find something else, it encourages you to find the blueprint. Then when you find the blueprint, like we talk about in etiology, what the days of the week mean, how that connects to you, how that connects with the quote unquote gods, the animals that are on the planet, the colors, the herbs, the territories, how that all connects. Now you have the blueprint. And this is in English, the most debased language. We've been able to actually get and surmount ourselves onto the awareness of who we are, at least the directions. But remember, the manual is not the device. The map is not the terrain itself. So this is also what's happening. There's been a lot of talking, and less practice. And we've talked about this. And we've also practiced about this. That's what ambassador training is. That's what specialist training is. So I'm glad personally to be in this time and in this space, because it actually means that these words will be more valid to a person. I'm sure right now, some of those people who didn't believe in, let's say, that Illuminati stuff, and it's a conspiracy, they would be nasty too. I would see run some nasty folks that when you start telling them what's going on, they make you look like you're a fool. I bet to that person right now watching one of those videos, they just in there in like hyper realness. Because now it's not that they didn't see it already before, and not that they didn't know what was going on. It's just they had already chose a side. And now that they see that that side doesn't have any respect of persons, there's only a few people in that little small group. Now they feel like they want to jump back on the team where everybody else is. So that's why the unity is not something that just has to be prophesied. The unity is a destiny. The unity is a guarantee. So let's keep going into this. So now Secret Energy TV is there. Again, if it wasn't for the little hiccup today, actually somebody said it is broadcasting there. That is the number one space to go to. That's where the station will be running. We will broadcast to these other avenues, but if it stops working over wherever you're at, you can always go there, so you should get used to it. We're also building out a curated area of consciousness, sharing spiritual works that are going on around the earth, also things related to culture, creativity, and all that. That's also when you click the browse button. We are in our final phase of caching and debugging that property to work with certain APIs. So you may sometimes come to the page, content is not exactly completely loaded. But if you want to know what you should be doing or what we're all working on, that's where you'll find that. Also, I put in the DIY sections things like how to create a projector. If you feel like you have time on your hands, right? And you really want to get a little bit deeper on projecting your future and how that all works, how you can put something on the top of your bed to that when you're asleep, all of that consciousness and that arrangement that happens in the subconscious, which is way more precise than what happens in the physical, it actually goes into something that actually is capable of keeping that together. So the natives would maybe see this as like a dream catcher, right? But this is the upgraded metaphysical dream catcher that allows you to rearrange what goes on in your future. So these are do-it-yourself projects, though, because somebody else can't rearrange your future for you, right? So this is why you have this time now to see who you are and to see what's going on. So, of course, before I start answering any questions today, because they're already pouring in, anybody who does have a question, I think it's already been mentioned, you have to paraphrase it first with question. We're answering questions from today. We're not answering questions from 4 weeks ago or wherever last time we broadcast, because, hey, we're actually in another world at this stage. I'm sure you would agree. So questions now would be more relevant to now. I do want you to understand that I have to lay a foundation here of awareness. So that way we don't misconceive what's being said and what is it to be really serious about the matters. Okay? What happens is that if you can think about even the last 1,000 years on this planet, which we have enough records of, we see that there's this incessant scenario around slavery, right? Even right now, there are still cultures that are in slavery, people that are in slavery, child slaves, etc. And that's generally not talked about. That's not what you're going to see on the news. You see it every now and then, especially when reporters report it on YouTube trying to build up their channel or whatever. We know it's happening, but it's not really a reality to the people who are living in another reality. But it's something that's happening and has happened, and it's been going on for thousands of years, where human beings have been treated as if they are the servants or the slaves of other, what we think are human beings, so that way they can keep building their systems. And it's true within everything else that if we are building a system to confine us, how can we basically build a system to confine us? You would think that we would look at the system and say, well, I'm not going to build something that's going to confine me. And then we can then understand there's like a degree to the slaves even, right? There's like the one who's watching over all the slaves. There's the slaves who think and know that they are slaves. So they're always like a bit demoralized about the whole thing. They've accepted the awareness of it. And then they got those that don't think that they're slaves, because in their mind, slave means a certain thing, and it has to do with poverty. So because they're not poor and they have a job, they feel like that, well, yeah, I'm not a slave anymore. But just even having a job is a form of slavery when you really understand if you're getting income rather than outcome, if you're being taxed, all the different things that all these other outlets have already found out about. You should know about this. So I'm trying to get you zoomed in really briefly on something so that way you don't confuse everything else, that for thousands of years, there's been this slavery thing happening, and we always turn a blind eye to it in the event that we don't feel like we're the slaves. And this is simultaneously caused all of us to not get together in order to get ourselves into a higher stage of consciousness, to break the shackles of any kind of slavery, to take responsibility for who we are and what we do and what we need to create. Because, again, everything takes place inside the family structure. So this would still mean that whoever is slaving humanity is still a family member. And that may seem foreign to the Western state of consciousness, especially because there's a lot built into that program about loving your children, taking care of your children, being there for your children. But if you can remember clearly, that has not existed for all cultures, though. Some cultures have been very instrumentally tied into their children and their progeny and who they're producing. But sometimes, like mother like father, though, or like father like son, like mother like daughter, if the parents didn't have any etiquette, any discipline, or any of that, they cannot all of a sudden endow their child with it. So I'm just saying, in the Western world, they do build that in a little bit more. You're supposed to take care of your children. And that is to appease many of those who are in this Western culture that are from cultures where that's all we do anyway. There's no idea that you would actually use your child as a slave. Okay? You only see that existing in certain vibrations, certain frequencies, certain cultures. But it's unfortunate that that vibration and that frequency and culture had taken itself into a stage of rulership. And because they didn't care anything about their kids anyway, and they actually sold their kids. There were countries that still have records now showing that when they had to pay tributes, when they were determining even their currencies, they based that on their children. Not that their children had this value that was like they wouldn't trade them, but that their children had this value that they felt they needed to determine in order to trade them. And I know that may sound crazy. Why would you trade or sell your own child? But now you can see why there's a lot of symbolism, especially in some of these occult worlds, about this kind of stuff. But it's that strict carelessness of basically a deep selfishness. It's not something that I can really personally relate to because I was not raised like that. I was not born like that. But I can't be naive and act like that's not a part of what goes on in the Matrix. And that, again, them being in some level of power has caused them to enslave the children of the world to a variety of ideals, everything beside themselves. And so that's why this break is happening now between the slavers and those who are ready to go into their great awakening and expansion. That's why the jobs for one moment are done so that people can see you can actually sustain yourself. But you got to get your mind together first, though. Because if that's where you were getting all the programming and now you got this thing talking to you and now you're going back to be reprogrammed, you even know what is going to be said there. It's only going to be bad things. You can rewind news for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and you will never find that news was a motivational outlet. It wasn't designed to do that. And now is definitely not the exception because it got more crazier and more crazier. And then what that does is, especially for a being, because we got to get into some metaphysics, where is your mind? Like, what vibration are you really thinking on? If you do have, let's say, these fear-based thoughts, that means that it's thinking, let's say if you had a ladder, 7 levels down here, then the midpoint, 7 levels up here, okay? I'm going to give you some real occult diagrams here. Fear thoughts are down here, okay? So this means people would call them low vibration, right? And with these low vibration thoughts, that's where you're putting your consciousness because your consciousness is your thoughts. I mean, that would seem like a no-brainer, but maybe some people haven't connected that. Your consciousness, state of mind you're in is your thoughts, but your thoughts and your consciousness is also where you're at, like even physically, right? It reflects in things around you, it reflects in your house and how things are chaotic and people coming in and out of your house and, arguments and all that. So it's reflecting in and outside, but also metaphysically, which, unless you're a metaphysician, you know how to see what's invisible. You don't catch that. Also, you're in the underworld. Like spiritually, you would technically be in the underworld if you kept having fear-based thoughts. And then the entities from the underworld, who are numerous, would be more of like which would be your cohabitations, their misery, and would become your company because of where your thoughts were, which are also your intentions. So when I'm talking right now, as I mentioned in the recent build that we had in Tribe Vibes, when I'm talking right now, I'm sending a vibration a certain way. Also, though, when I'm thinking, I'm sending a vibration that same direction. So if we could say this is the vibration is going out, when I think it's also going out. And that's, of course, the power of meditation because you learn how to actually pull things back in. You need this. You need to push out, but you need to also be able to come back in. You need the evocation, but if you don't have the intonations, you only get demons because you don't know how to balance the energy. So what we're dealing with is a situation where we now have to balance energy because that's what's happening. I got a great call from a wonderful brother, Ryan Netaquat, also known as Ryan White Wolf. You've seen me and him rolling together all the time, the Sacred Family, always bringing in the ancestors and honoring the space and doing what we can. So he calls me and he says, hey, I was just thinking about as the meditation was coming through, also here in Bali, there's something very sacred happening. And I asked a great and close friend of mine who is only dealing with the spirits. And he remarked, which could tell you the sincerity of his words, when asked what was going on in the world, he said, well, I can't tell you what's really going on in the world because that's not my responsibility. My responsibility is actually this tribe. And I can tell you what's going on inside of the tribe, and maybe it will make sense to you what's going on in the rest of the world. This is how you know you're dealing with adepts. That's like the call tag right there. That's when you're like, tell me more. Because that's how it works. And also it allows you to not get your projection invaded by the perceptions of somebody else's creation. There is the real deal, what's happening in the center, and then there's, as it keeps going out, just like vibration. Once it's projected, it starts getting a bit weaker, weaker, weaker. Then all the way out there, it starts getting distorted. Any musician knows that. So there's some folks that are running around right now in the conscious community. They got a very distorted perspective of the truth. It happens when you're out that far. But if you draw close to the center and listen to those that are in the center, they'll all be saying the same thing, because that's what truth is. So they're saying that actually this moon that we're about to go into is known as the blackest moon. I don't know if that's just a physical phenomenon, but they've been watching it forever at this stage, so they would know more. That it's called the blackest moon. And then this time after this moon is their new year. So this may correct things for you a little bit if you've been hanging out with old Gregorio and trying to figure out when the new year, even a Chinese New Year, already happened. These people who are working spiritually in this particular latitude and longitude, they say that it's new year for them. And during this time that they're already aware that there are these very crazy, very demonic, evil forces that come through. Okay, watch this. They even make these masks, right, with the teeth, and they tell everybody, stay in the house. Nobody gets to come out of the house. Sound familiar? And nobody should be walking the streets. Really, nobody should be eating food. Basically, extreme asceticism for 24 hours while the elders get into the spaceship and get ready to do what they do. Now, what are they doing? This is the key. This is the key to it all. What do they do? They are aware of something that we've been explaining over and over and over again here. Hopefully that you got it. And that's that without a yang, there is no yin. This means without what you would call the evil being, there is no good being. And all we're dealing with here on earth is the successions of that. The more evil, the more good. And so what they do is that they've taken the responsibility, as clearly many of the ancient tribes knew, to make sure that they were taking the responsibility to do this. They take the responsibility to transmute the energy. This is what they do. They say that they are trained to that when the energy comes, they call the energy. This is what adept is. They call the energy. Some people are like running from the energy. He's like, oh shit, they're coming. They call it. And they're equipped to, when it goes inside of them, it goes into their, I think the term was the ur. This is a word that comes from the Sudanese and also in the Amharic, I believe also. This is the womb, which we all have. They put it in there because they say that it needs a place, that these energies, the yin and then the yang, they have to have a place. However, something is responsible for showing them their place, putting them in their place, transmuting them to their place. So do you see what your gift is also, if this is calling to you? That you are able to put energies into their harmonic space because you actually have a projector, flame work, the whole nine. Like, the equipment on the human being is pretty efficient. So these are the times that you take these energies that you see coming across right now in the world and you transmute these energies. You're writing the story. They don't write the story. They may bring in some characters. They may bring in a little paint. They may bring in some canvas, but you're the one to actually paint. And you choose what colors you're going to paint with based on your knowledge and your experience. Because what happens is the vault that you're looking at is being obscured and obstructed most of the time with pollution. Forget chemtrails. Pollution, cars, what you're driving in. You got a big chemtrail coming off the back of your car. And now, because nobody can go anywhere really, the vault is getting clearer. It's like a window. It's an eyeball. It's getting clearer and clearer. Now, imagine the cake up that would happen on the etheric level as all the methanes and all that would build in the top of the vault, which they were talking about like that would heat things up. As it dissipates, I'm like, yo, y'all, this is gonna cool down real quick. I guess I better get used to that. Now they want to stop global warming. So now that there's no emissions, really, They say even over in Venice that the lakes have cleared up. They got dolphins now swimming in there because there's none of those boats with all the tourists over there. So metaphysically, what's happening is the vault is getting clear. The eyeball, which is Earth, the soul, is getting clear. And this allows it to receive the vibration and the frequencies of the projection. So just like when you're going right into your dream, right? They already know you there. You already got a family. You got a name even. You're familiar there. You jump in a dream, you're so familiar, you start carrying on. Like, yo, only the lucid ones be like, yo, let me, I'll take this. So there's another projector running. That projector of you is running from your consciousness, pinging off the stars, determining what kind of projection you want to live in. So, of course, when we're talking about abductions, because this is going to get real alien here in a moment, because it's alien even to treat your children like slaves. So that's an alien form of consciousness. So when we're talking about abductions, what we're saying is a person being removed from their own dream, their own star system, their own web with their parents, and then being drawn into another matrix, another dark womb. See, people don't understand that as above, so below, really. And some have taken the power and degraded it all the way to the lowest levels and do things that are supposed to be like the power. Like, let me give an example here. So in the deeper text, it talks about, let's say, for instance, Inanna, who's number 6, that Inanna's cult had mostly people who were flip-flopping kind of in their genderization, right? It made a male female, and you can check this out on Wikipedia. It said that Inanna's cult would make a male female. This is where Enoch's and Enoch came from. You had to dedicate yourself to Inanna. You had to basically cut your penis completely, which the circumcision is symbolic for that process. So they just don't cut it all the way off. And that they were consecrating lead doves to Inanna. And that they knew that she was the goddess of fertilization, so too it made her the goddess of death, okay? And that while she brought love, she was also the patron of war, okay? So what you would have then now, the cult of Inanna is like at an all-time low in most cases, especially when you watch someone that is trying to practice it. They're practicing the lowest form of it. They got the decrepit, evil, black, dirty, stank, killing, hatred, all this stuff. This is what they've done with it. And the only thing that served to do, because Inanna is Venus, and Venus is Lucifer in their world, only thing that served to do is confuse everybody else about what the real origins of these energies are inside of us. Not the external. See, because externally, you can only see what everybody else is doing with it. Internally is what you see what you're doing with it. But to not think that you're a part of it is ridiculous. This is the entry of the initiate. None of the gods are outside. They're all inside. They're all a part of us. And what you do with your Inanna, which is your funkin' dating component, your warrior, your strength, your one that could take it all the way down and build it back up, the lioness, and all of those other energies and what they manifest at inside of your body, even if it's, again, the full balance of the body. This is what is being talked about when they talk about Aphrodites, when they're talking about hermaphrodites. What they're talking about is the ability to be able to create from within. Now you got lots of these internet speakers, they've totally confused it now. Now it's to them all backwards. They think that these forces were used for demonic work, and then they go with their stories from there. And this is where we find them. So it is also your responsibility. Hey, pull the collar. Like, man, listen, everything that you're talking about always externally, don't those things exist internally? No, the gods are separate. How can anything be separate from one that is the all? This is how philosophy led Pythagoras into genius. It would basically be a moment where if somebody said something, somebody else knowledgeable with wisdom would say, but that makes no sense. Like from what we last confirmed, every single thing here is a part of us. So how is there something that exists outside of us? Oh, you're right. So it must be inside of us. Great, check. Let's go to the next one. Now, where is it at inside of us? And when you would go back to the ancient art, as we showed, they would really be pieces of the body. The ancestors had left us these, what was called deity, but for you to worship yourself and to know who you were. And then, so yes, if your liver was corrupted, if your spleen was corrupted, if your esophagus was corrupted, you had an evil god. You were possessed. And now you needed to be exercised, which is about taking your vibration into another rate in order for this kind of slothfulness to be banished from your being so that your temple would shine bright. So all of this is what we're talking about. But you can see how if you get the most distorted, the most decrepit, the most misled, try to tell you the secret of secrets, it may actually come out just like them, because people cannot be any more than who they truly are. And anything that you create cannot be greater than you. There is never going to be anything that you create that is greater than you. That's why you have to be great and then create great things. It doesn't work vice versa. So because of this, as I said before, just remember that the whole slavery thing has been a key instrumental point of keeping the gods of the netherworld consistently fed with the low vibratory energies that they eat. So just so you want to understand it from an esoteric level, when you go below sea level, why do you think there is a sea level? There's water in the air, right? Humidity. But why does water congeal at a certain degree, which we call sea level? Because sea level marks, it's a boundary marker. It's everything's about boundaries, weights, measures, and created worlds. So the boundary is like, what's my territory? This is where most of the beings are at this stage. Where's my territory? This is no different than the family structure. Dad, where's my land? No, I don't want you, brother. You should share with your brothers. No, I want my part because I have my own family. So this is nothing outside the family structure. The gods are nowhere near outside of the family structure and everything you see going on to this day. So here is where the confusion, because most people don't speak Sumerian. The Anunnaki are actually the gods of the underworld. The Igigi are those, they say those who rule from the sky, that is the Igigi. Those who rule from the earth and underneath, those are the Anunnaki. So people have classified the Anunnaki as like everything because they didn't even go and study the language. This is, again, looking at someone else, thinking someone else that is blind is going to be able to give us the truth. Also, I will say there are things that we'll talk about today. It's not the first time we've known this. It's just, when should we ever be talking about this stuff? Some of the potent things, people be like, I don't believe that. I'm not accepting that as my truth. Well, now, it doesn't matter if you want to accept it or not. Just like you got shocked with them cutting off the system. You see how that happened so fast? That's how spirituality works. You could be sitting in this one plane for one moment. The next thing you know, now you are really in another plane. People who've taken substances before, they may be familiar with that. You know, you get snatched right into another world at times. So just like you didn't think that this could happen, so too there are things that are going to happen that if you stay stuck like a deer in the headlights, you wouldn't think that that would happen either. But if you jump on this board and you get on this wave and you figure out how to get yourself into balance, it will take you where you're expecting to go. And now you know where you want to go. Give me a quick second. Remember, all this is happening for you to be able to gauge where do you want to be at. And you cannot do that with just your mind. You have to do that with experience. Now that you're having this experience with somebody else's mommy and daddy, somebody else's culture's mommy and daddy generally. Now you must become mature enough to not only take care of your children, but also to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. You must get mature enough to not only take care of yourself, but also to make sure you're taking care of the rest of the children. You have to be the great parent. That's why they show you that there were many beings that they were always helping. They were always doing things to assist others. And there's other beings that clearly were on the destroy mission. Well, why? Since they're no different than us, imagine this. Now, I only can give like a real life example here. That sometimes, well, shoot, let me get an example here. Like sometimes, let's say if I'm fasting, right? I can fast as long as I'm told that I'm going to be fasting. It's very difficult for me that if the food is just cut off, for me to say, "Oh, I'm fasting." Let me give you another analogy here. Just as clear as it is, if I know that I have to do something and I'm told that I'm going to have to do it and I'm able to prepare myself for doing it, it's not a problem for me to do it. It's only when I'm cut off from it do I actually start feeling the aggression. Okay, so let's say, for instance, that I'm eating, right? Everything is good. Now the food is cut off. Now, I fasted before for 2 weeks. I think my longest fast is like 2 weeks, no food, right? So I was able to get through. But if you cut my food right off, I go into like this desperation. So let's say day 1, I'm hungry, I'm worried, I'm troubled. Day 2 kicks in, I'm more hungry, I'm more troubled. Day 3 kicks in. Now, I don't know. My moralistic bearing may start to slip. Maybe I go steal some food. Day 4, day 5, day 6. By day 8, maybe if I have a weapon, I'm going to go and use that weapon, okay? Because I'm hungry. I was not prepared for not eating. I'm trying to give you an analogy here. See how the consciousness digresses into a deeper and deeper, more aggressive state? Okay? Based on what it feels like it needs, a satiation that it needs to fulfill. It goes into this deeper and deeper state of anger. And then, if anybody's witnessed this for themselves, in many ways, this could exhibit itself in all the desires in life. Let's say one is not ready to not have any sexual encounters anymore. And then all of a sudden, no more sexual encounters. Day 1, like, okay, day 2, day 3, day 4, 3 weeks in, they're going to go pay for it if they have to. They may even go try to take it. So what I'm trying to get you to see here is inside the culture, inside the human culture exists the gods, which is the culture is the petri dish, our body, because when certain times transpire, your bearing and your morals will start to slip. Okay? So this gives you an understanding on why there's gods in the netherworld, why there's gods in the firmament, if you may, because all these are vibrations and frequencies only. Also, if you want to know the attitude of those beings that are there, you're not going to convince them. See, you're listening to, let's say in this state in the world, you have, and just that state that I was just talking about, some may have been through that before, but you were raised to be conscious, be courteous to others, possibly, not be rude. And still you're having this problem. What of a being that wasn't raised? Wild, okay? Like look at in nature. That's why some of them take the signs of nature that it's just wild. So any urge that you have, you fulfill. Trying to get you to understand the world especially of the netherworld gods. Any urge that they have, they fulfill. They're unsatiated, and that's why in the Tibetan teachings and many teachings they draw them and they show the big mouth and the big teeth, and this just means eating, and it's like they don't even have a body because they're never getting full. I want you to see this as a very realistic aspect of the reality on why you would have beings that are like that, because what they also do and why they serve a purpose is there's a counterbalance to that energy. Just as I would go hungry, I could just as soon as fast. So this is the deeper level of wisdom about all of what's happening in the world, that we are in the center. Humans are sandwiched, if you may, between two great forces in order to usher in the reality that they want to live. I'll say that again. Human beings are sandwiched. We are the marriage. We can choose how much of this netherworld angry energy that we want and how much of this higher world peace and essence and coolness we want. How much of the heat, how much of the coolness do we want? That is our gift. But you got to see the results of everything that you were thinking about choosing. And that's what's laying in front of you. If you choose to go down that path and keep doing that, making those actions, you need to know if that's in the negs, if you may, -1, -2, -3, that you are in every respect supping with that energetic field of the gods in the underworld. And this is why it was so difficult for this to even be explained in esoteric knowledge and in language, because you had beings that were paired up with other beings that equal one being. So that looks like a triangle. You have one being, let's say the Igigi, who's high and holy, like what most people think would be the angel. And then you got this demon, right, which would be the opposite, doing the opposite of what that being is doing. And then that would focus into the center point and actually create something that was in balance. That creation is us. That's why flesh is with spirit. Any polarities always equal these same equations. Then when it comes together, it equals life. Life is us. And the power of life is to have the choice. Because even right now, someone can feel like the whole thing is coming down and they're ready to even go at the risk. While another person is like, this is the greatest time ever. And some may be over there thinking like, how could they think it's the greatest time ever? Exactly. It's their thoughts. You have to determine what it is for you. You have to write your own story. I can give you metaphysical principles and properties. A lot of this stuff is based on common sense. If there's no emissions, there's no fog, and the sky gets clear. When you really see what the stars do and what energy they bring in, this means that whatever people have been invoking, living like, trusting in, they're going to become that. And so this is, instead of thinking of it turning into, a realm where demons running around, you need to be talking about that finally you're going to be getting your ship and you're going to be getting completely leveled up, because it doesn't even matter what's going on around you then, because none can withstand that level of power. If they want a conflict, I mean, they're not dumb. So what I'm saying is that these are the metaphysical physics, and this is the metaphysical world, and this is why the metaphysical world is so important for us to adapt to and to move through right now. So I'm going to start answering questions. So I just, I had to pretense this with the energetics of what actually goes on the spiritual plane and what we're actually dealing with, and that the energy that you got to transfer the energy yourself. Like, don't believe that just the Bali elders are going to be able to do it for you, that the mamos are going to be able to do it for you, that any other group is responsible, like Jesus Christ and the scapegoat is responsible for doing something for you, that you're going to have to do this for yourself. But now you know what you're doing, which is, wow, that's a big step these days. And you also know what not to accept with what a lot of people have been saying and talking about and thinking they know about. So here's the questions. Okay, so these are new questions. Okay, all right. Okay, so this first question, I don't know if these are new questions, but hey, we'll go. I mean, I know these are new questions, but they don't sound new. All right, solfeggio frequencies affecting water. Is it possible to improve any water by using audio frequencies, and how? Okay, so what we talked about is we talked about that frequencies being played through audio devices is generally not the way that you're going to get the molecular structure of water to change anytime soon, because the molecular structure of water is so small. I mean, if you could just change this primal particle with an instant, then we wouldn't even have a world that we're living in right now. The best thing you should do with water is purify it. Like we talk about spring water is naturally structured because it's falling down the rocks. It's naturally purifying itself because it's hitting those rocks. The rocks are mineralizing it. You know that everything here on the planet needs to eat minerals. Trees need to eat minerals to survive. And so that mineral structure inside of water comes from the leaves. It comes from the dirt. It comes from the sand. It comes from all of the different things that are being collected in the river. And this is what gives the water the perfect structure. So now once you remove it from there, if you're trying to improve it, it came from nature. It's got the sounds of nature in it. It cannot be improved any greater than that. But if you're trying to restore it, let's say you're trying to bring water at the house back into a state of drinkable water. Personally, I feel like at this current stage, hydrogen is one of the biggest keys because of what it does to the surface tension of water, meaning turning water into hydrogen water, which we've been working on a massive project to bring that forward, and is going very well despite what's happening with the trade lines that we're still open. So I trust that we'll be able to bring that to everyone really soon. But also purifying your water, spiraling your water, putting your water inside of a simple stir plate and letting it spiral, but get the multi-directional stir plate to where you can turn it back into the other direction, which will concave the fields. So Fegio frequencies affecting water, just to answer that question, through audio, you can do more with your intentions. You can do more if you had headphones on, because I don't want to just throw it out the window. If you had headphones on, let's say, and you were listening to that frequency, or somebody was playing that frequency on a flute, you would be better off listening to it with your ears and then sending it back forward through your mind and into the water, because that would be the proper carrier. But to put it into a speaker and then put the water right next to it, it's not gonna plug in, because it needs an organic carrier or other things like the angles, the softness, all those kind of things to be able to affect it. So that's what you have on that. And there's plenty of recordings about purifying water and what is the best forms based on what it is that you're dealing with. This next question is, I sometimes roller coaster. I'll be well when then just stop with my growth and goals. Is this normal? What is the cause of this? Okay, now this is why we have eniology, because there are personality types that have this going on, that they get headlong into something, almost ready to complete it, and then convince themselves not to even go forward with it and run right back into the other direction. So there's not necessarily something wrong with you. It's just you need to understand what things do you need to be doing that help benefit you because you're like that. Because long haul projects, that's not going to work out, right? But things where you need short-term burst of energy, this works perfect for this kind of thing. Like if you're getting bored, but all that has to do with your path number. So also next week is a big rollout for us with eniology. We're hoping to get done in the next 2 weeks to where everyone will have an opportunity to run phase 1 and phase 2 of eniology, and mainly utilize the system that will determine your number, so that way you understand what's going on. But already as it is, your birthday, like I'm born on the 22nd, added up is number 4. That gives you the traits of who you are. If you go to the cosmic calendar, which some will source here into the chat, you will see in the cosmic calendar your number. And then when you click on that number, you will find all different correspondences for yourself energetically. Also, eniology.com is now live. So if you go to eniology.com, you can see all the paths there and a quick description of each path, including the number of the path. And then you can start beginning the research on yourself. But this is also how far along we are in deploying this. And it's right around the corner for us, because you can go to eniology.com right now and you can get more information, personal information about yourself. And then you can go also to the cosmic calendar and you can get all the resume. You can kind of see what your subset is. It's not you're in there by yourself. So if you're judging you, if you're denying you, that's all still something you're going to have to deal with. But if you're ready to make these transitions and to bring yourself into a cosmic alignment, that knowledge is there for you. And we're going to continuously keep building it so we can pair you with someone that knows more about it, and also give you the actionables that give you the information to know when you should be feeling a certain way or why you're feeling a certain way. Because that roller coaster for certain paths is actually the movement of celestial bodies, even in the movement of the moon for those who are more prone to the energetics of the moon. So when you're timing and synchronizing yourself properly, this actually comes in as a benefit, because realistically, there's certain things that you shouldn't be engaged with for a long time. So that having that consciousness that's like, look, okay, I'm done with this, I'm ready to move on, that's perfect for that scenario. But as I said, if you're in a scenario where that's not so great and you didn't even see that in your path, it wasn't beneficial for you to be involved in stuff like that, then you're constantly making these mistakes and you're kind of resetting yourself. So this is, again, the benefit of eniology and where things have gone. This next question is it normal to be doing well or just being best? Is it normal to be doing well or just best growing in various aspects of life, your goals? Then all of a sudden lose the momentum or feel like you're doing too much with not enough progress, okay? So this is a very similar question. This is the result of taking external stimulus for what you should be doing. You know how everybody just going to tell you how you should be doing it and what you should be doing, and then you start listening to them, and then because that's contrary, because it always seems to be contrary to what you're already doing, right? Because after all, if you were doing what they wanted you to do, they wouldn't be saying anything. But then when you're not doing what they want you to do, now they have all this advice, and it's always going to be opposite to what you're actually doing. And they're going to say, well, you need to do it this way. You need to do it like this. And then you go and stop doing it the way that you do it. And then you pick up another way that they're doing. Now you're back in the other direction again. Nobody does it better than you, especially as you're secure with yourself. You cannot ask anyone, how do I breathe? You already know how to breathe. Okay. Now, extra pointers are things. I'm not saying don't take mentorship, don't take advice. That's not what I'm saying. But still know where you are. Know who you are. So that way you're not getting overwritten all the time because you know how to do all this already. Somebody said, well, how do I cleanse? You know how to cleanse. If I put you in front of a river and then you look at me and say, well, how do I cleanse? I can't tell you how to cleanse. It's like breathing. You just go in there and you cleanse. You know how to do this. So again, empowering yourself and realizing that also the knowledge is available for you to get in sync. Get synchronized with self. Give me 1 minute. I see some typing happening down here. Okay, great. Okay, so good. So we re-rolling it. I'm going to keep going through this. I'm going to get through as many questions as possible today. Probably going to cap this off at 11:30, which is in about 45 minutes, something like that. And I think I can actually get through most of this that's here. Also, I did want to say to anyone that is leaving questions that you may also want to look at some of the questions that have already been sent and see if your question is just like theirs, because that does help us get through the time process properly. So the next question here is, okay, so there we are. How do I overcome sleep paralysis? How can I create a better vision for due to better nursing? Okay, excuse me. That's a little bit ahead of. Okay, wow, that was last year. Okay, yeah, here we are. I'll not scroll through this anymore. There's a lot of questions here, so there's a lot of space. Okay, yeah, I had this huge gap in the questions because we had that technical situation, so I'm going to pick up right here. Is all the energy of the populace the money? Wow, there's a lot of questions in here today. Okay, we got to turn on rapid fire. Activate rapid fire. Here we go. I still haven't scrolled back to the top to where the question started. Okay, is it normal? Okay, there we go. What is your family? What if your family is too mentally sick? Well, I guess you're answering the question for yourself right there. When you say somebody is too much of anything, this means it's out of your hands. The best thing that you can do is actually go within and then try to clean up some of that family karma once you get yourself cleaned up. This is exactly what the elders say, that you can cleanse your family if somebody is going to stand in the gap, but they're going to have to do that through themselves. So it's not going to be something you're going to be talking to your family about. This is like trying to call someone deep in the netherworld and you're sitting on the surface. You're not going to get through. Something's going to block that call. So go through yourself by correcting the family lineage and boosting yourself, and then it will reflect to them as much as possible. The next question is, does it make a difference if you're dealing with biological, genetic versus nanobiological and non-genetic family? If you can actually determine the difference between all those, you let me know, huh? The reality is that what is the difference? It's actually made from the all. And what happens is that the same way you're treating yourself is the same way others will treat you, as long as you're in a space that is projecting what you truly are. And so if you see chaos around you, then this means there's chaos inside, and you start working on it from there. So all these different variants, that's just more confusion that's being introduced into the same confusion field about who are the humans, who are the real ones. The variant here is basically the degrees of the soul. The soul, as we said, is the black dot, and the amount of that black dot that is on the back of your pineal gland, how big it's getting. The more you begin to do things that are aligned with truth and about the soul force, the more that grows, because it unlocks these DNA, which opens up that window. However, if you're a new being and you don't have any mineralization, and which means you don't have any memories, and you're just starting, it's going to be very difficult. It's going to be more difficult for that being, which is more closer to a clone. Cloning is not a word that just means that, hey, we're talking about robots. A baby is a clone. But how do you make a clone original? Or how does a clone become more like the original to unlock all of its strands and all of its strings? How does that happen? Through the trials and the tribulations of the world and through the encounters that you receive. Someone can pass you Shakti. Certain words can mean certain things to you and turn things on. Certain family members and spouses and things that you may connect with actually give you the essence of certain things, certain places that you're in, certain things that you're walking on. This gives you more degrees of the spirit. But those who actually are not on that path more degrees of the soul, and those who are not on that path altogether, they're more like, let's say, the clone, because they have that lack of awareness still happening of who they are and who's also around them. So that's the answer to that question. The next question here is, how does it affect your family when someone changes their reproductive system? They are born a male and they become female. Thank you. That is all about strictly what we see now, that whatever decision that a person is making, that's what they begin to correspond to. They're holding up that space. I mean, if the question is how much does that affect you, this is a twofold mission. We have a mission going on here on the planet externally and what we're trying to create in this space and what we're trying to do. And then we have this internal mission where we have to put ourselves into the space where we want to be, and nothing can affect that but us. So the next thing is the next question here is, so where does karma fit in if there is no death, no lessons? That same degrees of the spirit that I was just telling you about. If you start acting like a netherworld Nergal, then don't be surprised if your whole subset, from the snakes to the scorpions, which are all symbolic for different things that can happen in your life. Your dominant nature, angry, ruling through anger. Don't be surprised if death basically becomes you if you start acting out that way. So karma is no different than whatever you're putting out is what you're going to get back. Dharma is that same thing. So we could say dharma in this case is Igigi and karma is Anunnaki. And your degrees of what you're doing in that, really you want to be in the center. Some were already looking like, I'm going to call the Igigi then. Are we getting anywhere? Obviously not. Go to the center. So you know about these beings and you know about these focuses to be able to calibrate where you're at in between. And that's what balance is. It's something that constantly has to be maintained. Sometimes you will go off and you will do something and it'll just be an impulse, an urge. That's what I was trying to mention earlier, that the gods, they just live on urges. That's why they're from So once they're urged to do something, they're not trying to change their urges. They're just going to go do it. They're not going to think about it. It's like, that's who they are. And so what you have the opportunity to do, that's what the master teaching was really about, is that you can actually resist urges. So you can resist what the gods are saying. You don't got to listen to them. You can take their stories and the situations they faced and apply it to your consciousness and then go beyond where they went. But don't believe, again, that they want to change from who they are. They've chosen who they are. Just like you are now choosing who you are. So let's keep going. It says, how do you teach this knowledge to your children? There's so many variants. Why do we feel like also that we need to teach children anything? The reality is that kids want to do something. You just put them in the right environment and put the right things around them. When kids are constantly surrounded by TV, video games, toys, they're going to choose that because that's like choosing the opium. That's like choosing the cocaine rather than the cacao leaf or the flower. You see what I mean? It's like, it's too much. It's like an overdose. So if you put them at a park, if you put them somewhere with sticks in nature, they teach themselves. So that's how you would begin that process. And even now, learning from etiology, remember that you're able to eat something as a parent and then feed your child with it. So even though etiology kids is not exactly ready yet, you can make etiology kids with your own children by studying who they are and then creating things around letting them know more about who they are. So the next question is how to cleanse, like a 30-day cleanse when you have to work 7 days a week. I don't know. How do you do it? Do it. I mean, the reality is that what do you expect for me to tell you? Like, hold on, I'm gonna open up a magic portal. You could go stand out there in the magic portal. There'll be another clone of you that's actually working. You do the cleanse inside the magic portal. That one does the work, and that's how you get the cleanse done. Namaste. No. Get it done. Like right now, if you're still working, great, celebrate, because a lot of folks aren't. But getting it done while you're doing this depends on what you're trying to get. If you feel like it's important enough for what you're going to receive when doing that cleanse to actually make it work out with your job schedule. You see how silly that sounds? The job would take precedence over your cleanse. If you got to do the job, for sure, do the job, but definitely do the cleanse because that one would probably be more important. So the next question is, with 40 being hyperbole in philosophy for an innumerable amount of times, and in numerology 4 being building foundations, does this have bearing on 4 being missing from the sequence? 4 is not missing from the sequence. Let me tell you what happens. The sequence is 7 because this is this is how you basically every time they show a tree, every time they show a chimera, they're only showing the manipulation, meaning to change and to modify. Like we change and modify things all the time. So it's not that these numbers are actually missing. It's just the entities or the energies that we know less about. Like I said, Inanna is 6. I have all the Sumerian correspondences and the English correspondences, Hebrew correspondences to all the days of the week, the energies that they really are, and the archetypes in which they represent in the Ennead, right? So let's just say that there's certain beings in the Ennead that you don't know anything about. Just like you may know Inanna, you may know Nergal, you may know Marduk, you may know some of these beings. As far as when I say no, they're inside of you. So if you know yourself, then you know them. But if you're trying to find them externally, good luck on that. You may know Zeus, you may know Horus, you may know these beings, but their traits, you must know their traits because they live through their traits. So even when certain animals start showing up, when certain trees are going in bloom, when certain colors are really manifesting themselves more, when certain numbers start popping up more than anything, that is deity, part of self, vibration, frequency, planet, etc., revealing that it is in the space. And when you're actually in alignment, that means that you know that that energy is in the space and you're actually centering into that resonance. Then you're able to accomplish every single thing that is related to that energy in balance and smoothly. Some use that energy also to bring in polarities, to use the darker aspects of it, the lighter aspects. So just like you can go get crazy and get all wild because you don't have any food, so too you can go in on the fast. That is the middle point or the balance in all of this. So the gods are no different. That is the gods. You are the gods. The next question here is, are you going to teach adepts their group configuration, meaning those who are 9 and have a configuration? Is a collective earth vibration or destiny cluster vibrations differs in frequency? So I understand this question. I'm gonna make sure everybody else does. Is that what the person is asking is, are we going to start teaching about, or teaching at least adepts about how to create groups around them that have the perfect sequences, from what I'm gathering from this question, of a collective earth vibration. In this case, the numbers from the days of the week: 1, 2, 9, 5, 3, 6, 8, which equals 34. 3 plus 4 equals 7. So they're basically asking, are we going to start talking about how to get that into alignment? We've been talking about how to get that into alignment. Have we developed some precise curriculum where you click the button and it says this is what you're learning? Not yet, because we still are actually finishing things that are more related to this working directly for an individual person, and also that individual person knowing about all of these paths. So then that equips them to actually do that inside of their own group before we actually get to the point of being able to develop something around directly talking about just that. So it's a little bit down the list for us in relation to what needs to happen and what we want to do with the system. The next question is, so where does karma fit in? Is there no death, no lessons? Okay, and you're getting a lesson right now. And we answered this question earlier. Absolutely, there's a second death, third death, fourth death, fifth death. This is descending through the underworld. This is where the person, when they blink out here, they blink into another reality. And if they're going further down into the imbalance, then they wake up into some level of a torment, being poor. Then they have to work their way back up again. Remember, you started this life working your way up or down. When I started this life, I can't say everything was gravy around me. I had to work my way up through the Arabat and up through the Mount Meru, just like all of us have to do. Right? Some of us, again, we start off in debt because the family members, bequeathing kids to other folks, contracts, all those kind of things. So we have to climb out from the negatives at times. Like a seed, we be planted deep in the ground, And that's giving us greater roots, greater awareness. It's allowing us to be able to go back into that, connect into that, and see that as a form of our strength. People who've been through something, that's their strength. Folks that have been through a lot right now, they're like, let me call up this next bill. Look, guys, I need you to wave this all together. Okay, namaste. Even the businesses are saying namaste now. They're giving away free stuff. So it's about how you're connecting. So someone is saying, okay, good. Okay, so everything's still good. Actually, we're speeding through these questions, so we're getting some stuff happening here. I'm gonna keep going. Did we choose our parents to be assigned at a certain genealogy, or did it really matter who birthed us? Okay, it's a tree. You don't choose in the tree. It's because it's all still part of the same thing anyway. So it's like funny because you're just getting all of the same choice. The energy is going to continuously reign anyway. So wherever you came out at is the same way you're going to come in. It's like that portal that you're sliding through. So maybe if you don't like your parents, then you get a good glimpse of your last state and maybe what it is that you need to improve about self based on what you've learned. So everything matches up. Like when you leave here, it's like you go through a tube of the frequency that you were in when you left, because it's all vibration and frequency, and you come out in an existence that is going to start that frequency right there. And so what you see around you, those pillars that you see around you, and whether they're crumbling or whether they're strong or whatever condition it is in, is letting you know how to build yourself. And that those pillars you call your parents. So the next question here is it fair to manifest a connection between yourself and another person? That's an interesting question. I don't know if this has opportunity. I mean, it can roll into the realm of fairness because that's like a rather new concept. It was what I was saying again about now we know how to love our children versus some of the ancestors set a child right off. It doesn't even think about the child. So we're learning how to be fair. So if you feel like in your consciousness that you shouldn't be using your power to try to get of your power, because to manifest a connection between yourself and a person that you would want to be with is only to unlock that twin flame inside of yourself to actually get in balance with that yin yang Cain and Abel thing going on up here all the time about what you think you want and what you don't want, what you want from a person, and really how you should just be working on yourself. And then when you start working on yourself, then it mirrors, like when you congeal the light within your own projection inside of yourself, it is going to manifest the person that, I'll say it this way, it's going to manifest the person that you've become. And that is a perfect match to where you're at. But also don't be surprised if you see some of those yin yang components. That's why they say opposites attract. Those yin yang components within the beings that you're actually attracting so that things remain in balance. Don't think that you're just going to attract a person that is just like you. Only if you stay in balance can you hope to attract something that is in balance. If you're polarized, I'm the good being and I want another good being, you're not going to get that. I can guarantee you that is not how alchemy works. Like you're going to get the dark being. To get the equal, you must be equal. Remember that. So the next thing here is how do we bring them together if there is a narcissistic, manipulative, and not wanting anything to do with unity? I don't know who you're talking about, meaning that I don't know who we is, but you'll notice in a while, we're going to get that mouth, meaning that these people who keep talking about what they're not going to do was because they had a choice. Those choices are being removed rapidly. The people who have been saying that they're narcissistic, I care about myself, manipulative, they got some scam and scheme, probably just got laid off yesterday. And I'm not saying that that's everybody's case, but I'm just saying things get real really fast. And then all those filters come off. Then they start crying and everything. Great. Now we're breaking through. Same thing that happened to me, same thing that's going to happen to you. So it says here, question, when taking the Tibetan medicines, such as Chulin, Jing, Baimala, etc., is there a specific amount of time we should be using it for? Or is it like a multivitamin where it doesn't hurt to take it daily? Exactly. It's the multivitamin version of the Tibetan medicines. The other ones that would be a problem to take daily, we don't provide them. They won't provide them to us. Also, even things like Jing, you want to be... especially if you have to sit down for a little bit, you want to be very cautious of how much of something like Jing you take, because that's Jing. Jing is to get you to move around, to get you to use the fire, the heat, the strength. Like you can be up all day working out, those kind of things. But if you're sitting in the house, maybe you don't take 5 or 6 jing because you'd be cross-eyed in there. So it's also using your own, use your own common sense. But always remember that Chulin and Tibetan medicines like Chulin and Baimala are predominantly activated through culmination, meaning when you're taking it every day, every other day, it does accumulate. But to put it into the meditation builds the meditation over time. So meditation, which is really getting the body oxygenated and getting the right kind of implosion happening to these minerals, is one of the big keys of actually seeing the truth of what these multivitamins, if you call them that, can do. The question here is, are there physical aspects that happen to you in order for you to move to the next level in life? Example, I experienced seizures for the past 2 years, once right around my birthday. Man, I seen life have to be moved around like that because sometimes when we're told things directly, we just don't do it. I was telling my friend the other day, who's now here in Costa Rica, but he's from another country, that if he didn't come here to just say he was going to see me, he would be in that other country locked down because that country is actually locked down. So maybe it was better for him to be here. And maybe that was the whole reason why he even met me in the first place. The universe works like that. So it's important for us to see that 360-degree view before we go into judging where we think we are and why things are happening. The next question is, have you gone through any portals and met any other beings? Absolutely. Like it happens all the time. What I do is I charge them right away with the responsibility of only showing me, telling me, or any of that with things that are going to be useful in this realm, to this reality, to the mission that we're working on. So that way it's not all out there. But absolutely, there is 100% something out there. And I don't know if we're going to get into that today. We got like 10 or 20 more minutes. Maybe someone comes up with the question. I can show, what a lot of folks have been calling on. Maybe I'll do that anyway. I just want to get to the end of the list of the questions. So the question here is there any techniques handling family members? Oh, also, I do want to paraphrase that. That's not something that I just go jump in and do. Like I've noticed that there's this whole culture now where they just want to go and get blitzkrieged off of some substance and then call in some beings. Yeah, like even my second ordeal with some beings, I was like, okay, I need to be way more careful. I'm so glad that I made it through that. But it's a real thing. I mean, when you realize the power that's out there, you have a lot of respect for what you say you're calling in. And also you learn that whatever it is that you call is only going to be in reflection to you and generally quantified and amplified. So if you're frustrated and you're down and out, now you're going to be bringing a frustrated, down and out, quantified creature into this realm. And, that's just something that those who know how to hold space, those who really give ceremonies properly, they know how to deal with that and actually take you through that process. But remember, this is not like, well, let me go and grab the Ouija board and figure out what I'm going to call, because you're definitely just be another telephone for the netherworld. There's plenty of them. So here it says, question, is all the energy of the populace, the money, the labor force, attention, and rituals going to the virus, summoning the greatest demon of all? Is darkness to be defeated once and for all? Yes, I love this kind of mindset. Listen, you're saying it all there. All the energy in the populace, the money, and the labor force is on pause. Okay, they say when they don't have the Olympics, that would signal in the time where there would be somewhat of an arrival. Okay. At this stage, I don't think a arrival is too far off, meaning the entry of another being that doesn't fit phi base geometry. I think we're getting a little close to that based on the situation and how that situation was read out to happen anyway. So is that attention in rituals going towards the virus and summoning a demon? What's happening is that all of the fear, as our great friend Ryan was also explaining this morning, all of the fear, when we say that something is coming in and it's a little distorted, it's evil or whatever, and it needs to have a place, something has to transmute it, etc. That's real feelings. That's real emotions. It's not like all of a sudden there's a big worm across the sky and it's like one of those movies. It's an actual attitude, an actual feeling, and then things that happen in the reality that start bringing in that energy. And then your responsibility, if that's what you do, is bring balance. You're just balancing them out all the time. You are already aware that this energy is coming in and it's heavy on one side. Start seeing it as that. That's the daemon force, or the density. It's heavy on one side. So here you are to bring the light that is equivalent to its densities, right? So, but all energies will transmute and will go into a greater stage of awareness. This is taking things into a greater stage of awareness. More power, more energy, more awareness, more opening. That's exactly what's happening. And it's got to start with things that people recognize and see. It happens on the spiritual space first, though. That's why the vault has been open, and it's still open, and it's opening more and more. When we hit June, July, August, September, October, paranormal for people, whether individually or publicly, that we may see some public display, but more importantly, individually, in sleep, and that deep levels of spiritual connection. So this is why you want to tune yourself up. You want to get yourself cleared now. You're sliding into the door, but for many of you, some have been doing this for years, but some are just coming in. You're sliding on the door. Wow, you made it. Give me one quick second. Let me make sure sound and everything is working properly here. Okay, here we go. So the next question here is, any techniques handling family members who are not yet conscious and awakened, so to speak, especially elders who keep pushing prayers and mind holding us back from even saying anything? I think that you answered your question in the end. Why are you saying anything? This is already it. This is not exercise. This is real world. I gave you the opportunity. This is where your conscience has to go. I gave you the opportunity when the time was allotted to me to understand what exactly was going on. Now, if you're still doing this and you see all of this happening around you, that's letting me know a lot about the condition that you're in. So I'm not going to spend time with that. I'm going to actually spend time on what's going to help us all. You staying in alignment and you continuously building yourself is going to be the best assistance that those that are around you can get if they're still sticking their heads in the sand and they still are locked into an old program and that reality hasn't shattered for them yet. Okay? So the question is, how do we balance out conflicts that are caused by division? That question is way too open-ended. The next question is, and that is like specifics. This is the basics, celestial mechanics 101, vibratory energetics 101, semester 1, going through the process of even figuring out where those conflicts are even coming from. Next question is, the administration cycles are under the dominion of the moon, known also as moon cycles, is relation to those aligned to the equinox. Okay, so that's not a question. The next question is, did we choose our parents to be assigned a certain genealogy, or did it really matter who birthed us? Okay, the cosmos is always working the spin. So even if it's Gregorian, even if it's another country, the numbers hold, because that the numbers are ma'at. The math is ma'at, is a vibration, it is a frequency. It's not just what they created in school. They didn't create it. They didn't discover it. It wasn't discovered or created. It's always been here. The frequencies and the sequence of the frequencies, as we showed, when they play 1, it shows up as 1 dot. When they play 2, it shows up as 2 dots. That's how we were able to come up with numbers. So that master law of knowledge holds. So when you come in cosmically, when you're birthed on your path. Now, whether you stray from your path or not and become influenced on your path, now that's a different story. And we talk about that in genealogy, how one can be influenced by another path, and then they start not exhibiting the traits of their number anymore. And then we talk about the road home, meaning starting to know where you are, which we put a test together for, know where you are, and then now know where where the journey is from where you should be, back into alignment with self. And so the next question is, are there physical aspects that happen to you in order for you to move? Okay, so that's the same question. Let me keep moving through this. Okay, someone said, can you speak on the relationship between 5G and the coronavirus? What are the ways we can fortify ourselves in the rise of technology yet to still participate in the technology? Okay, I'm glad. Now we're getting to some questions here, not downplaying any previous question, because this is now going around. 5G is giving people the coronavirus. Wow. I mean, how many false positives? Do you know how big of an issue it is in a laboratory when someone has a false positive, meaning that they actually think that something is going on based on another thing? Like now people are taking corona and synchronizing that in linguistics as a carnivore, and then now they're saying that that's why people, and it's like, wow, man, really? Hell of a storyteller. Is that what's really going on? No, absolutely not. And if you were guided, you would know that that's not what it exactly means, and that's what none of that is. So just 5G and the coronavirus. 5G grids are predominantly being put in play because they want to go wireless completely. No drivers. Do you see there's no jobs? So how does the trade line still stay open? Driverless cars. Elon's got tons of driverless trucks. They will put 5G networks down country roads that have nobody living out there. Why? Because those are the roads that that the trucks are going to be traveling down. So they're not expecting this interruption in commerce to be on for too long. But they're also not expecting anyone to be driving those trucks. Also, they want worldwide communication within milliseconds. 5G grids deliver information around the globe in milliseconds, allowing them to know who's who, know where they are, know what they're doing. Okay? It's about that speed, right? Now, coronavirus, because the false positives that are here are really centered around things that, well, first of all, viruses happen, and this is why you're seeing this even in Italy more than anything. We talked about this in a previous episode. We talked about how the wrong cheese, this means nobody's taking care of the cow, nobody understands how to cultivate this cheese. Tomatoes, which are hybrids and cause a lot of acid in the body, and they're just now doing arthritis videos and telling people about how bad tomatoes are if you don't know how to put alkaline with it and balance it. Breads, these yeast and these wheats and grains that are harvested continuously, and the fields are not allowed to even rest before it now becomes this pasta. Okay? Vinegar, which in olives, which again, these are like medicines, really. You know, the time that you should be administering this level of stuff into your system because it's just where that would throw your pH balance. Wines. Hey, shit, I just talked about Italy. Wine, cheese, pizza, sausages. So it's the diet. It's not just whether you're eating meat or you're not eating meat. We already demystified that, building up and tearing down. You know, you didn't see that whole play where people started, all these big companies started manufacturing this fake meat, vegetable meat. Is that, I mean, we already talked about last year that the entire crop was already destroyed from hurricanes. That was the crop that people are going to be eating on in the middle of this year. And that has nothing to do with coronavirus. That had already happened. So these new forms of food, which are supposed to be like vegetarian, is also the reason why they're pushing the vegetarian so heavy, so people feel like they're transitioning into something better. And what this is really about is this is about balance. A balanced diet. You don't want to make yourself prone to certain things because you've eliminated certain things out of your life. I think Dr. Kassar is still delivering knowledge. He had to switch it up completely and explain too many vegetables, too much tearing down. Now there's nothing left. Now you'll be brittle and broken with all the oxalates inside of you. Your immune system, somebody cough in your face and you will catch something. And that all has to do with other things that also need to be in the body. So you can be a vegetarian, but you also have to supplement properly. But to then all of a sudden insist that the way that the ancestors had already conducted their diets and their meals based on where they were is not the best way is yet another new age phenomenon. So it's bring me your acids, bring me your alkalines. That's the statement of the alchemist. And then when there's too much acid, no matter what, when a virus comes along, you're going to catch it. If there's too much alkaline even, no matter what, when a virus comes along, you're going to catch it. I was also stating that, once again, the official statistics are that 80% of the people are recovering from this that actually have decent enough health. You haven't really heard, and this is a telltale to everything, you haven't heard about anybody that survived the coronavirus on the news. Like, I've seen yet one story. There are people who survived it, but there's not one story. Does that let you know where it's really at? This is not about the coronavirus. This is about the economy. This is about even the Anunnaki. This is about the arrivals. This is about all sorts of other things beside the pretense of what it's going under. But yes, that fear, it does allow everyone not only to get depressed and into a lower vibration, but it still allows them to see themselves, because that's where they were anyway. We have to stop believing that somehow what's happening in the reality is changing us. We were always this way. If you were low vibration, you were low vibration anyway, and you were faking that you were high vibration. But your thoughts and your mind and your actions and the way that you were was low vibration. The things that you ate, the things that you justify were low vibration. Now you're trying to get to a middle point. You're not trying to get to high vibration. This is, again, the banana in the tailpipe, the monkey wrench in the clock. It's going to continuously keep you set up for the next yin-yang play. You're going to be at this table playing ping pong with these gods for infinity if you don't understand where is that balance. So any extremes, avoid them. Use real knowledge and wisdom. 5G being the cause of the coronavirus is another scapegoat and another talk point for most of the people who have nothing to say. They don't have anything to say. They don't have real development with knowledge and wisdom. So they got to listen to what somebody else says. So then when the same people, let's say this, what's Buddy's name? Alex Jones, right? Does he look like he's fasting? Does he look like he's in full lotus at least one time in the day? Is he saying his honorings? Is he going to feed the mother? Is he visiting the mother? That's not going on. That's not kind of lifestyle that being is living. So when that being is the first one to say 5G is giving everyone the coronavirus, you think that ain't another play to get everybody now like, oh, how are we ever going to get away from this? It's everywhere. We're doomed. This is what most of these beings, that's how you know if they're holding space or not. If you already feel like you're defeated, you're not holding space. If you're pushing out projections that don't have real solutions, you're not holding space. If you're trying to go somewhere physically, acting like just physically is going to save you, you're not holding space. You have to be inside, stable and firm, and your foundation be true. And no matter what happens, you'll be guided through. I've been in situations, invisible, walking through. Still like, okay, I'm just trusting that the power is going to hold me, because if I'm not invisible in here, they're all going to see me and watch the power hold. You will see the whole thing come down possibly around you. The whole damn building may collapse, but that one beam that stays up, that's the one you're standing underneath, if that's what you feel like inside. And that's why you're having the time now to gear yourself up properly in a real situation, because some were playing too much. I used to get crazy messages on my Instagram from people or the Facebooks from people that I know, cheesing out, going into weird sexual perversions and all sorts of stuff. I'm sure they're not doing it now. Way we can stop wasting so much time and get on to the glory and the happiness of who we truly are, so we can now be real rather than these fake characters that we've been introduced to from Hollywood. So the next question is, how do I ask something like this? I feel defeated by triggers in my life and in my environment. Why would I want to build from that? How do I address this? Gratitude and wholeness and balanced vibrations. Definitely have been there before. Tearing the whole damn thing that is worth nothing. Seeing how fast it was able to crumble. But to start to lay that foundation is to lay it on truth. Don't underestimate ideology. Don't underestimate having the ability to know who you truly are and how that empowers you. Don't underestimate the power of the resonance. It would be to underestimate the balance of the gods who are within you. So meaning that all of that you're feeling is because your temple is suffering. Your pillars are broke. This is a great time to rebuild then. But know what you're rebuilding, and don't just look at that, because that's why meditation is so important, because you'll look at it and be like, I don't have time for this. Remember, you're already broken. If this is the state, you're already broken. So you're only going to get transmissions that this is not a solution. This is not a solution. That's what a broken mind thinks. There's no solution. So you can no longer listen to your mind. And it's great that you're not just your mind. Listen to what you truly are. Reflect to yourself what you truly are. See your ideology path And then start bringing in those resonance, bring in those herbs, spend that time in nature, spend that time around things that connect with nature. Nature is going to have more as a life giver, as a nourisher. It's going to have more, let's say, pity, if you may, we use that word. It's going to have more pity for you than anybody that you can ever explain that to. It's going to see you there as its child. And like I said, we only imagine sometimes the netherworld gods because that's what they keep bringing up all the time, and their attitudes and their selfishness and their behaviors. But not mentioning that there's also beings that are in complete balance to help you here with balance. That when they see you really making an effort, then they're going to bring you into the space. They're going to bring you into the awareness of self and who you are. So, okay, I think we actually answered we're going to keep going. Let's keep going because we're at the end now. So we might as well keep going. So the next question is, okay, all right, here we go. Give me one quick second. I'm scrolling in again. Someone says, what is an easy way to dial into self and maintain a pure and direct connection to source for people who haven't practiced this, especially when the internet is going to be clogged or even cut off? Okay, go out to nature. Just sit there. You don't have to ask how to do something that you do naturally. If there's already, you're going to be cut off and you feel like that it's over, you've never done this before, and you don't understand any of this, this is flying over your head, meditate. Learn how to breathe. That's the easiest way. You're saying you want what's the easy way? Okay. Well, first of all, Mount Meru, unless you got really big calves and really thick legs, is not one of those easy routes. So lose that whole easy thing, right? If you're saying, where am I going to get the most results? That's proper English. You're going to get the most results by learning how to breathe. Once you realize the power within the breath, you can check out the whole body breathing videos. Do not desist until you realize the power of the breath. If you're sitting there and you're like, I don't feel anything, keep going. Do not let it convince you that it doesn't do anything. There are millions, if not billions of souls who have been able to elevate themselves into greater states of consciousness off of what is free, and that's the breath. So that's going to have the greatest level of impact and greatest level of transformation within someone who doesn't know anything about this and what's going on. Then once you take your breaths, if you feel like you're ready to come back into this, you may check out the Keymaker series, because that's a good one-on-one from what everyone tells me. It's good one-on-one to get a good crash course in metaphysics. Keymakers is always available online or wherever it is. You can download it so that you'll have it there on your laptop or whatever if they cut it all off. But that's going to give you more instructions on what to do as a step-by-step. Start with the breathing. That's where I started, and it opened everything up for me because I realized that the best things in life were still free, and that I actually can take myself really high on just air. Next question here is, what should we do? What should we all do about the current restrictions to public to connect in groups and crowds so we can take action and be a part of the connection to the tribe and affected across affected areas? Get online. Go to the next best thing. Start creating online groups that are going to do that same thing that you're saying. It's helping people to actually be able to connect. I know everybody wanted to downplay it and say that it wasn't worth anything, but now that they can't go anywhere, it seems to be worth something. Like I said, the same people that are telling you that technology is the evil one is the same people saying that over a phone. I won't say that it doesn't have some nefarious uses going on with it, but what I'm saying is that our power within is going to give us the discernment and the awareness of what to do, and we have no enemies. If we're scared of just leaving Earth, well, you should be scared then, because we're all going to leave Earth. This is about where you're going. So right now you have this time, and if you repaint the picture, especially to what it truly is, you have a lot of assistance and support around you. You can draw from different wells of resources that are sympathetic to the situation that the world is experiencing. You can buy more time. Inside a tribe, we also talk about, especially in our off-grid chats, things that you can acquire now that will ease the process. And then you will feel more and more comfortable, because it's important for you to feel comfortable and stable. That's sovereignty. So when you start thinking about, let's say, oh, I'm not going to be able to eat. Right now, I have something that takes up less than, I think this thing is, let's give it about 12 feet by 12 feet, right? And it's got 4 rows inside of it. And they all got some vegetables and stuff growing inside of there that I had. I went to the farmer's, the farmer's market, or the guy who delivers the organic goods. And I said, hey, instead of pulling it up, just give us the trays of it. Now, right away, we got the whole structure set up already to feed ourselves. So this is not about balling up or deer in the headlights. Deer in the headlights, of course, if you're just not going to do anything, if you're just like sitting there and you're just thinking about this so much and you're not doing anything, we're here to help you from that. Take your hands off your eyes and think about, okay, common sense. Let me secure my food situation. Let me go out and let me get this sprout machine. Start doing those things, because metaphysically it just says, okay, they're alive. They're getting it. Let's go ahead and put in some more wisdom in there, because now they're realizing that they have to be able to sustain themselves. This is what the parents want to teach and will teach by all means. The next question is, living in an apartment in the city, I feel surrounded by people who are panicking and people that talk about this virus. What would you recommend I do to stay centered and capable to be there for others? Okay, well, I think we've been talking about this the entire conversation. And we've talked about it for years, actually. We build from the inside out. If I got to be in my bathroom, I had a point in time I was in the closet. It felt so comfortable. I didn't even have that issue with people with the virus and all that kind of stuff. It didn't even matter. I just didn't want to talk to anybody else. And people were still in the house. They thought it was going to be back good again, and we're going to make millions of dollars and all that, and they wouldn't leave. So I just went in the closet. And I felt comfortable there. It was quiet. So what I'm saying is, supreme mastery over the mind is what you're going to need anyway, no matter where you go from here. So if this is just another scenario where you're being taken through the training, remember, never more on you than you can bear. This is, if you're in that situation, it's because now that power to activate being calm in the chaos is now at your doorstep, ready to teach you that lesson. That master is now there, ready to teach you that lesson. And the gift is that you actually have the transmission of how to overcome these things. And as I said, you think it's a game because you can't see it. But the larger your field gets, and the more harmonic that your field gets as it keeps growing, it starts to push neighbors into doing what they need to do. People may have to even move out if they can't hold the resonance. Somebody in the next room has had a change of heart. Money, a check had just come from something. Just don't give up on yourself. See, the only thing about all this, and I'm telling everybody else on this line this, if you give up on yourself, it's very difficult for us to do anything. We're still outside of you. We're inside of our own hearts. That's where you can find us. But if you keep us outside because you've given up on yourself, then there's nothing that we can do. Do not give up on yourself. Even if you have to say it, I'll never give up. You have no clue who you're dealing with. I'm just getting started. Motivate yourself. Blow wind in your own sails. You're more than capable of doing it. When you feel tired, know that's when you're gaining muscle. Muscle doesn't start being built until you start getting under the strain. Especially for those of us who've been through a lot of stuff. The reason why we've been so chill is because like nothing's happening. Now something's happened. It's like, okay, well, let's get into it then. This is what I was made for. See, we always have these beings that are running around talking about, they got these long names, talking about how powerful they really are. Now it's time for them to use the power, and they seem to be very confused about who they are. Don't be like that. And even if you are, this is how you fix that. But it was important for you to be able to see exactly what you were really made out of. That's why I used to always say, make a sober estimate of yourself every single day so that you don't imagine you're more than you really are, because that receive what it is that you're supposed to receive. If you say, I'm in trigonometry, and you're just trying to show off, when I throw trigonometry formulas at you and you look stupid, how does that help you? Especially if that's not an ego trip. It's best to say, I'm at addition and subtraction, and then you will get math, and then it'll lead you to trigonometry. So this is where we have to be very truthful, at least with ourselves. Who cares about everybody else? But don't be still lying to yourself. We talked about this before. Many are living a lie, living like there's something that they're really not. And then now that's shattering, and then when they see who they really are, they see that it needs some work. Perfect. There's nothing going on out of the ordinary. In fact, again, if you're here listening to this message, this is the greatest thing. So let's keep going. We're almost through this here. The next thing is forced vaccination. How do we say no? You're thinking again. You're thinking about things that are not even happening, and it's bothering you now. And what that's doing is distracting you from what you should be doing. Did somebody force a vaccination on you? Do you know anybody who even has coronavirus? So the reality is that that's your frequency, that's your space, that's your world. You see what I mean? I had one little dream slip in. The person was like, hey, man, you need to make sure you wash your hands from coronavirus. I was like, what the hell are you in my dream? Get the hell out of my dream. There's no corona in here. You have to be able to hold your space, because if people are not in your environment and they even talk about they have it, that's your space, that's your environment, that's your field. So nobody you saw was getting the forced vaccination yet. That's your space. That's who you are. That's your field. How do you prevent that from happening? How do you say no? Turn it off and turn on yourself and start working from within to actually create the external reality that you're living in. Now, again, this will seem like pseudoscience for those who have not had the experience yet. This will seem like a blind effort. That's not the way. But did anybody else introduce any other ways that you saw were actually functioning and working? Even the people who were just talking about it was all going to be solved by money, they seem to be also having an issue. So what is the way? The same way the whole thing was wired together in the first place. Metaphysical. Let that one eye be open so that you can start seeing exactly who you truly are. Like, wipe the window of that one eye. So this next thing says, question, were the Anunnaki associated with from the Draco constellation? Everything to do with below the waist and down, which is a lot of the, let's say, serpentine nature, the two legs. That's why they show their Abraxas walking with two different legs. They show many of the Greek deities walking with two legs that are determinated in as serpents. This is a direct reference to that the lower half of the body is actually designed as, let's say, the serpent world. Serpents do what? They go where? Where do they live? They live in the ground. They live in holes. There's great serpents inside of the earth, right? Because there, I saw a big snake. It was huge. It lives in the earth, right? So it's not really off to understand that, yeah, those other energies that, let's say, if you want to find their correspondences, they would be technically living in the ground. So let's just show a quick image here that actually gives us the esoteric aspects of that, which would be, in this case, the god Nergal, and in this case, god of the netherworld. The symbolism here is the horns, the axe, this is the warlike nature, the snakes, which burrow within the ground, the dogs, the scorpion, which also scorpions and crabs live in the ground, the ringed system. When somebody asks me, so what do you think the diagram of the earth is like? Is it flat? This thing you see on the left is the symbol of the world as far as the netherworld is concerned. Concentric rings, as we talked about. And then in that concentric ring system, a center pole where all the power is coming from. And one is encouraged to get into the center of themselves, right? So let's keep moving through this. The next question is, make sure I proficiently answered that question. Okay, so yeah, so now you see why, remember, Anunnaki, they're not from the heavens. They rule from the netherworld. The Igigi are the ones, quote unquote, from the heavens or on high. So that makes sense why the Draco, the reptilian side of all the things have to do and correspond to these Anunnaki beings, right? So the next question is, would I move to Portugal? Should I move to Portugal or Costa Rica to get a better frequency, or is it possible from every place? Frequency has a lot to do with the environment, if you didn't notice. So this is about finding a place that has at least amount of things built by man around it. That's why when you go up on higher altitudes, you feel that there's a difference and there's a change, because there's not generally a lot of things that are not, you don't get a mall at 10,000 feet in the air. So all that's generally taking place either downtown, below sea level, because that all corresponds to those worlds. And remember, the builders that have worked with this, because the workers of Marduk, which we'll have to get into later on, which are the Freemasons, they're the ones that create everything in those netherworld planes. And they make downtown and make all these areas and consecrate all these areas to be direct in resonance. That means that anywhere. You can go to Portugal, travel through your country, and then find a place. And then these places are always cheaper. Frequency into your space. Altitude, as we said, plays a big role in this because the altitudes is also where your mind is. On sea level, there's a lot of thoughts in there because that's where a lot of the consciousness is. In the negatives, there's a lot of the consciousness down there. So the more you move even physically into those areas, the more you're going to have the chatter going on. Now, some are built for that. So that means that they can go into those areas and maintain their own bubble and space while they're taking care of things in there. Courage to be in that. Get to higher ground so you can learn what you sound like. That's also what frequency does when you raise your frequency through meditation. You're getting to a higher ground in your own temple. You're getting to the top of the mountain. So here's also another question that says, should we all return to a state of childlike thinking? I mean, I'm not sure exactly what that means. I think that that's always been the key to be childlike, but not childish. And so as a statement, I would think it was a great idea to not. So the next question here is, will there be a reboot or will we survive to tell the tale? I told you this won't be the last time that the universe hears from James Evans Beaumont III or whatever they're calling me next. There is no end to something that's infinite. And whether it reboots, I have a sound grip on what exactly is happening in the reality in succession. And I've been explaining that already. The problem is that people haven't been listening. So when you go back to the recordings, it talks about all of this happening, the 2020 seeing clearly. It talks about the other entities that are actually here, their objectives. It talks about what you can really do about it, your own self. It even tells you who they really are and how they're actually connected to you, the Darth Vader syndrome, where Luke Skywalker realizes his father is Darth Vader and that we're actually inhabiting many of these energies. And then also how that energy works for us and how to get that energy to work for us. Let me just check my notes really briefly here. Okay, great. So we're still rolling here. We're almost done. Actually, we're at the end of the questions, believe it or not. It says, what's the meaning? It did get in here too. See, I thought you were going to get away. He didn't even get away. See, I said that I wasn't going to talk about certain things unless it came up in the questions. And it looks like it ends up in the last question. So he does not get away. So I'll tell you what that means in just a moment. Let me run through the rest of these questions. I just saw one. I was like, I guess he's not going to get away. What this question is, where the Anunnaki said you were Draco? What should I move to the Portugal? Okay, should we all return to stage childlike? Will there be a reboot? What is the state of the Mamos? Mamos are actually holding space right now. We have a direct line in the Mamos. They actually are, well, at least the Kualamas, but the Mamos are there with them directly. The Mamos went into a meditation last night at 8 o'clock, which really matches up also with what our brother Ryan was saying about the deep shamans that are in Bali, that they're going into these meditations and they know that this energy is coming in and they know how to embody this energy and then transmute it so that it's balanced. And then what we get a chance to do is either do that ourselves because now we've reached the level of eldership and we've got that mantle, or just stay in the house because that's what you tell kids. Yo, just stay in the house. I'll handle this. And this is all to get you prepared as you get yourself lined up to be able to enjoy a higher level of who you truly are, or a more expanded level of who you truly are. Also, if I've mentioned high and low in this conversation and all that, it's because we're dealing with English. Remember, when I say high, I'm really meaning in the center, because as you're going up a mountain, you're going higher, but it's actually going to crest out like a peak. And so when I say higher, I mean center. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that that's very clear. The next question here is also, I will say that we are working as much as possible to assist the elders in actually finding a way to sustain themselves and bridging that with what we're doing. So you're going to see a lot more from the Mamos. There's even some Russian shamans. There's many beautiful, deeply connected people in this world right now that have been training and are prepared for this. And we're doing our part at being a platform for them to display what they have and to assist them into getting it into a format that they can actually bring it to you. So that way you can feel the vibration of your respective and collective reflection. Okay. So the next question here is, what is the difference between the 13th moon Mayan calendar and the Gregorian calendar? It's a difference between a lunar calendar and a solar calendar. It's as simple as that. The next question is, what relation are Anunnaki? Oh man, I just hit it again. Okay, there we go. What relationship are they? If I actually hit something, it just kind of goes up into the other questions, but it's great that we're at the bottom because I can get right to it. What relation are Anunnaki to humans, parents as grandparents? Should we stay away from the Anunnaki? Yeah. Listen, the further you get, we talked about this before about how many rings you are from the center of the tree. Okay, so the center of the tree, the more you get closer to the center of the mountain, the more realer it's going to become. Right? So it's not about whether you're going to stay away from something that's also a part of you. It's about whether or not you understand what you're dealing with. And anytime you go to great grandparents, there's this whole thing about respect. There's an order and an ordinance. That is almost like a pour to them. It's almost like you're disrespecting them. You see what I mean? It's like you don't even talk before you're spoken to. You remember that? Hey, don't talk unless you're talked to. So because of that, and you're not going to change them from that, you're not going to come in there with flapping your deer eyes in your yoga suit and expecting to really get from Ningoshita. It's not that user friendly. Okay. So what happens is that you're in this space, you're in this time, and you could do the best that you can by building up your energy. For you start talking about going to get something potent as the Anunnaki, you need to make sure that you're receiving the charge to actually even be affiliated or engaged in anything from that level beyond what is going on in your body. And I wouldn't get this stuff so far out externally of realizing what it truly is. The underworld aspect of you is below the waist. Right where your dantian starts, your belly button, which is the center of your body. You see how you have your organs and your intestines there? You pull that out, I'm sure it smells. That's the underworld. So what we're talking about is that you would, if you want to work with Anunnaki, the real ones, you would start cleansing your bowels, because that's also what these elders are saying that they're doing. They're cleansing and purifying this energy that's coming through. It's energy nonetheless, but it's almost like when you pull a tomato or something out of the ground, it's got dirt all over it. You wash that dirt off. Transmutation phase to where something that would not be editable now becomes food. Communion, connection, consecration. This is what we have together in this world. That's what connects us all. Even the consumption, the eating, and the transmutation is all part of positive attitude in times like today. Come on now. Come on now. Next question. What's the meaning of Jesus going to hell before ascending, and what are the keys he took from death? Okay. The J-Man. Okay. This is what's happening. Okay. Everybody's been sent on this blue mission of this external Jesus. Okay. It's very important to understand that the Mashiach traditions, the ancient ones, the mother, the child, bringing the child in, the crystalline nature, the superior brachium, being on the cross of your own head, stuck between your decisions. So everything going on internally, okay? However, because that mystery was profaned, this means that there then becomes an external Messiah, just like, let's say, Anunnaki, or Anunnaki are below, Igigi are above. In every other tradition, they have this same phenomena, angels versus demons, right? And so there's an external one that attempts to evoke itself and to take up that same space of power, okay? And very briefly, I just wanted to show you, because it was just came in officially, who the being that is now called itself Jesus, called itself all sorts of things. It will take any name that it can get. It will call itself Pharaoh if it has to. It'll call itself anything. And let me just give you a quick glimpse in. So Michelangelo, apparently the painter, was so deeply aware of the occult mysteries and still trying to transmit to all the people that what was really happening in this occult sanctum that he was basically forced into. So back in these days, if you could paint or if you could play instruments or do something like that and you had that kind of talent, it's just like, let's say, as we talked about with the slavers, they would take you right away. So people like Michelangelo, Leonardo were central and key components, even Beethoven, central key components in the time where these hyperdimensional, if you want to call it that only means that they live for a long time, by the way. So they can actually get to the memory strings of things that you have not necessarily lived through on the planet. So that's what hyperdimensionality is. Let me turn this on. Hyperdimensionality is you being able to access a space that is part of your memory string that is not a part of others' memory string because they were not in that space. Now, to them, it appears hyperdimensional because you're moving through other areas that they do not have access to. So that's what hyperdimensionality is. So what you're looking at in this picture, if you can make it out clear enough, is Jesus Christ, okay? Now, that may seem odd to you because if this was Jesus, or as most people know him, then most people wouldn't be worshiping somebody as ugly as this. But common sense ain't common. This is where all of the images that have been coming in that people are still debating, are they authentic or not? This was Michelangelo's painting of who Jesus was in his diary, okay? Now, if you look at this skull that they also have of these specific beings, the Anak, the underworld entities, the ones who have been coming to earth, acting like they were going to be the rulers over everybody. This is why this Jesus was crucified, because people did not want that. But that did not stop this tradition and them trying to continue this tradition and them making these pacts and oaths with gods from the netherworld all the way up until this day. Now, let me show you how you know that this is authentic. Now, this wasn't the original image, but somebody remastered the image so you can see the shape shifting, okay? This is the image of the one they know as on the planet now. He's taking this particular title because the other thing is that even when we say a Messiah, it doesn't mean that we're talking about one person. When we're saying a Marduk, it doesn't mean that we're talking about the same person that is consistently being the same thing. It is a title. So okay, so this is the Marduk. Okay, they had already caught him recently in an interview. Some are already, you expect that everybody doesn't know about this, but that's not the case. There are many societies that still remain a secret that are not aligned with this buffoonery that has been happening on the planet, that are very aware of the entities that are moving around. And only if you realize what's going on. Like there was a lady that was high up in the UN that was participating in these meetings that nobody else could participate in. And she said that one of the beings that kept coming through had a cone head, like literally like a cone head. This is from that same family lineage. They say also that these beings are directly from Mars. This is why Elon Musk and all these people that we're going to Mars, because they are from Mars. And they are not, especially the indigenous bloodlines, the melanated bloodlines, they are recessive. They destroy the sun on their world. They live in cold environments. Hell is not hot. Hell is cold. It's frozen over. Okay? So what we're talking about here is we're talking about the as above, so below. But now imagine when someone is directing their energy. That's why there's so many prophetic things happening right now that all seem to be related to the Bible and this doomsday theory that the Bible has cooked up in Revelations, because it was cooked up by this creature. And just like you see, like right here with Nergal, this is the final part here. You see that Nergal has these dogs, right? At its behest, right down here. It's because every deity has a pet, okay? And the pet is very symbolic to who they are. Like, for instance, Marduk's pet is a dragon, okay? So the reason why this becomes important is because this so-called Jesus character that we're showing here, that's taking the title of Marduk, because remember that these are all titles of nobility and royalty. Its pet is a gray. And next time when we tune in, maybe I'll show some pictures of that if it comes out in the Keymakers. Its being that it uses is a gray alien. So this is why the ships that you see coming in the air in the Leonardo paintings, Jesus standing up there, even though they have other pictures of Jesus, but the nice one when he shapeshifts into, right? And the ships coming in, which are the UFOs, and then you even see grays in the background, and these were all drawn by these same group of aristocracy artists, okay? This is that awareness that, listen, this is what they've been evoking. This is what they've been playing around with. This is what they've been bringing in. And this is what they're getting others. That's why the Vatican, Look at the movie John Carter now again, since I showed you that picture that Michelangelo drew. And then go into John Carter, which is JC or Jesus Christ, that is the movie. Go to John Carter and see who John Carter finds out was the rulers inside of the pyramids. They look just like that. Now, black people get all up in arms because they're like, it wasn't black, and they want to take credit for anything that is black. But I'm telling you, you don't want to take credit for this. There are many ancestors. Like I said, there are Igigis. There are other different beings that correspond to the family lines that are here on the planet. And I'm also saying that, yes, we are all family, but you do have these family members. Like I said, you can't choose your family. You have these family members that are gravitating towards the negative pole or the distorted pole. And there's going to be nothing you're going to be able to do. That was a question that some people were asking. That was a rhetorical question. There's going to be nothing that you're going to be able to do to convince them to stop doing what they're doing. They're trying to convince you to start doing what they're doing. They're holding space. Literally, they're making up that vibration and that frequency and that spectrum for you to see. That's not what I want to do, though. I don't want to become all like looking like that, all old and decrepit, moving around like a Skeksis. Talking about my precious and what's mine, not having the ability to let it go, being stuck in the underworld, dead but dreaming, no longer living with life. That's not something that I want to enjoy. But you will only know that is if those beings had come into the world. And also, it's when we say come into the world, those beings had come into the consciousnness. Now we are aware of them. They have become alive. So this allows us also to ingest that properly, to digest, to put it in our ur, and to balance it out, and to make sure that the world doesn't feel the full brunt load of some imbalance. Okay? So that's what we're here to do. So the final questions are, she never left. You just got to understand, grandma's like not like going to be playing with you. Like that is very serious energy. And some be thinking that, this energy is just going to come and, oh, my children, you're selling yourself that dream. That's not grandma. Grandma in the family structure is there to bring order and to bring rule, to get you to stop doing things that are making the you coming in for grandma for a hug, like we used to talk about before, and she smacks you. And you're like, damn, grandma, what you hit me for? You just look like you're doing something wrong. Get out of my face. This is, some people are like, well, no, I don't think that. You're thinking. Look at the family structure. Because when these beings come in, when the grandma come in, like all those badass kids, Marduk, Ninger, and all the rest of them, they're going to be running. They're going to be trying to blame it on you. He did it. Because they're all going to get ass whoopings. You need to be there, like, holding space. Like, I was doing it, grandma. Like, it was mama. You need to make sure that you understand that all this stuff is, I laugh. I'm laughing so I keep from crying, okay? So the reality of all this, again, is so true. And now we're in this time. I'm not here to just give you theatrics and to entertain you. We're in this time where all this is now coming to fruition. We're seeing completely that, this is really the real deal. They told them cease and desist. Close your company tonight. They had it open all the way to the day of. And then all the CEOs quit in 1 week. You don't think they're all sitting in the same group, knowing the same transmission that they're all getting? So let's keep going. We're almost done here. Is the age of ether the next phase for the ascending? We're in the age of ether now. What's next? It's unknown. It's like I said, like we're articulating the stuff that we're dealing with now. We're in the known. I'm explaining to you how to breathe. We're in the known. What is next? And we can all be glad about that. We can't put it in some kind of bottle or some kind of word or some kind of spell. You know not. You will be there and you will be aware, but how you will feel will be undescribable. Okay? So the next thing here is that what's the difference between, and that happens anytime somebody leaves the space, by the way. If you got things tuned up properly, that happens when you leave the space. This is not a criteria that is bowing down to 2020. Time does not exist. This is just another wake-up call, literally, and another opportunity and another alignment for you to come in direct awareness of who you are and your truth, your inner truth. So these final questions are, what's the Something's talking to me right now. The next question is response to the transmutation of evil disharmonic energies during this time. I found intention with grounding a way to shield clear out similar energies, but is this delaying full transmutation? I don't know how it could, because that sounds like the process of transmutation. The next question is, as we talked earlier also about why some are transmuting and in the space to transmute these energies, because these new energies are coming in and they're not paired. And it's like we're doing the dating, what do they call it, dating game or the matchmaking show with the energies that are coming in, pairing them up with their energetic equivalents. That's why we're also in this process of creating more things all the time and bringing more awareness and wisdom and all those kind of energies into the world to pair up with all that chaos and confusion and all of that. So that way we stay balanced, right? So the question here is, where everything is going seems to be having online. Do you think this is a real possibility, or why? I'll answer this question very briefly. Yes, for sure, that most businesses that are staying afloat right now are going online. It's kind of common sense, again, when reading Facebook Libra's website and how that's working, and seeing now what's happened pretty much to the economy, that businesses will be in groups together, supplying each other based on specific criteria. So let's say more symbiotics inside of corporations, whether that works out well for humanity or not, I wouldn't go that far, because it's clear that, as I was telling everyone, that there was a recording that this president, their president, whoever they're calling him, had when his phone was open and he was having this conversation with these people at the table. Put the phone on the table, left the recorder on, and then you heard everything that they were all saying. In that process, you kept hearing him say, how's your business doing? How's your business doing? So this is the same guy from the last 50 years or however long he's been on TV that is so business. Everything is business to this president, right? So imagine then, since you have all the medical companies standing up there, those are all the businesses. Those are the old companies. The war card too well and monopolize on that properly. They got shut out on the technological side and the electricity thing because Elon is up on that. When they think about the business, for them, the only business still is the drug business, because they're drug dealers. And so they get all the drug dealers together, and then they cook up something to begin to monopolize the medical field. Now everybody's making respirators. Everybody's making medical equipment, medical masks. Now they're prioritizing the shipping lanes for just only medical things. So that, again, seeing that play happening, and then seeing all the medical organizers back there, and they're like smiling like everything is going well, like, oh yeah, we're gonna create more medicine. It works for them, but does it work for us? Obviously not. So where's the wisdom coming in at? We're working on something right now, and this is very rapid, where I'll just put it like this. Going through all that situation of trying to make money, it doesn't even exist in there. It just takes money to make money. It keeps building money. You can put more money back into it. It creates more money. How long do we expect that to last? I think that if we're able to put our hands on it, which is what it's already operating now, we're just getting it to operate for more spaces. I don't want to say what it is because I don't want anybody to be projecting into my projector. Because of this and seeing it work already, and it's been working for a year. Also, I know that I'm not the only one that one of these, and we're not the only ones that have one of these money generators, if you may. And so that means that if the economy has got trillions of dollars being pumped into it, the interest rate is pretty much at zero from the Fed, and that money is now even being made without nobody even doing anything, then you're looking at a wedge with the money system where it's about opening up as many lanes as possible that it will be coming through for you, and then rapidly liquefying it into a resource, whether that's land. Don't go buy no gold. Your shorty can't eat no gold. I'm telling you, don't do it. Unless you're making monatomics, it's not your thing. Unless you're making colloidals, it's not your thing. Don't go and buy a bunch of stuff that you cannot eat. The most valuable thing to people is food, mostly. But who cares about everybody else in this situation? What is going to be the most valuable thing to you and your family? Food. So go turn paper into something that can generate food, since that lane is still open. And that also will simultaneously not make you so uncomfortable as you see things going on around you, because you'll be getting spiritually consecrated, and you'll also be pushing more of your power back into yourself. Because when you grow your own food and you're responsible for the maintenance of your own food, that's where all your power is. That's why in this society, somebody else generally handles our food, because there's a power disconnect there. There's a lack of connection with the essence of the creation of the energetic force. Food is the energetic force. So remember that. This is the thing, as last questions here. Where everything is going, okay, that was the last question. Do you think this is well, I wanted to make sure I finished, because what is the internet shutting down about? Okay, is the reality of the internet shutting down possible? Okay, now remember, there's a whole nother internet that exists outside of this internet that does not run on the same servers as this internet. It's called the dark web. So the dark web will go nowhere. The web that we're looking at now will just be way more regulated. I mean, there won't be reasons for people to have certain websites. The highest traffic websites are always going to be the websites anyway. So we're talking about supply chains. Are people still able to get products? Do they have something that even the corporations in managing their employees will they want? You see what I mean? Like, it's not counting oneself out of everything because I don't want to be affiliated and all that. I just prepare. I'm opening up wedges. So if corporations even say, listen, we got a lot of people that are going crazy. Our engineers, they need some spiritual help. Well, Mindful app. That's where we come right in. And then our soul coaches, people that are esoterically trained, can assist. And you would think that, well, no, you're thinking. This is how you carve your way into anything. Are you not gods? Why can you not carve your way into the future? Their vibrations and the resonance will still exist. It's just all about how you make the transition. Are we still using gold rubles to pay each other? No. We moved on to something else. So too, we will move on to something else. In those transition phases, you just have to be on point and be aware. I gave some guidance before. I sent out an email about diversifying a bit, having a little bit over there in Coinbase ready to move out of the account. The lenders are like happy right now to lend. Give it to me. Let me put it in some land. Get me some food going on here. So I'm chilling out a little bit about what needs to go down to the farmer's market. Start meeting more farmers if that is still available to you. If you can't go down, they shut everything. Call somebody. Stop crippling yourself. Use the damn phone. Hey, do you know anybody that has the food? Yeah, I'm going to turn you on to my folks. Right now, they just put our entire organic market online. They didn't miss a beat. In fact, it's a bit easier than going down there. And so the reality is that either it's going to get better for you or it's going to get progressively worse. That is all based on how you're utilizing the energy. The final questions here is, how does the water bearer fit into this? Is there a spinal fluid spilling into the higher mind? Yeah. The water. We talked about deluge of knowledge, deluge of money, deluge of accessibility. So deluges just mean that you get so much of something, it becomes too much. And this era that we've been living in, especially as the consumer era, people have been pretty much deluged by information, knowledge, food, opportunities. And now it's become that other problem with the deluge, or when you get too much, is what do I really use? What do I really need? What should I really do? And so things are, there was a skip question that says, should we be fasting during this time? Water fasting? How will we help the collective? You may have addressed this already. Actually, this is a great question. Fasting builds power. Any aesthetic generally builds power. So if you feel like that you've got the mastery over fasting, I would definitely encourage you to do that and hold space with that fast. I can never say that when I was fasting, it didn't make me more clearer, it didn't make me more spiritually inclined, etc. And so if you feel like that you should be fasting, it will help. Water fast will help. Because that's directing the energy in a specific direction. This last question, for real, it's the last question. Is there another reason they don't want people to go outside? I keep seeing videos about the sky splitting apart. I did see a video that our brother Q had put up about something happening in the sky. Now, I'm watching the sky all the time. So if we're not... I thought we were watching the same sky, but maybe not. I have only seen that the sun seems to be more like squished, more like an oval than it is like a circle these days. And that is the celestial change that I've been able to observe, other than the stars getting a bit more brighter, which could also be in relation to the lack of emissions. So to answer the question, the not going outside to me is directly related to the shut-in, the Sabbath, the Passover, etc., of no movements while give me a minute. No movements while this, let me get the words right. I'm trying to get the words right because there's spiritual references to this, but I'm trying to figure out how that translates into English. So what it is that it's like it's an ordinance thing. It's like a procession. That's what I'm looking for. In the procession, when the first levels, the first level of the processors come in, it's like when they're about to do the Pledge of Allegiance, everybody's got to be quiet, right? That's the order of the procession. So the order of the procession right now is there's a world initiation happening, if you didn't notice. And that first part of the procession is initiating everybody into this awareness. But if everybody's moving around, busy, on their jobs, and doing anything beside being serious, that initiation is not going to take place. That observance is not going to happen. People are going to be too distracted. So this staying at home is directly related to that procession and the respect of that procession coming in. Again, you have these people in Bali saying this is the new year. So it's almost like our 2020 is basically just getting started. It's not the Gregorian January 1st, 2020 that started this. It's certain energy, and this energy is coming through, and it's going to bring a certain level of awareness. Everything on the spectrum is going to come through. So it's all about what's going on with you. It's always going to come down to that. How are you going to tune up your own balance? What kind of consciousness do you really want to enjoy? Do you always want to be dependent on somebody else? And what situation is going to happen for you to get out of that dependence? Remember how a lot of people were asking about that they were in either relationships, they were in situations that they felt like that they just didn't know what to do. They can't make the decision. I'm sure if you check back in on those people now, they've made a decision. I'm even sure in certain cases, the decision was made for them. That's why if you ever find yourself in a troubled state and you feel like you're not able to make the decision right then, go into your meditation, still the space, and it'll come to you. I also wanted to say that we're going to keep pushing with this. Like 10 years, ain't no reason to stop. 10 years publicly, so there's no reason to stop it now. A lot of our stuff is already deployed. We're going forward. I know enough about the tech worlds, how to design things, how to get in, how to get out of the system, how to create bridges within the system. We have to begin to create more things in relation to the communication side of things, like really developing our organic grid. Like we are working now to geolocate our entire site for those who want to participate in knowing who's around them. This means that I feel it's important to know if 2 doors down from you, there is somebody else that is on this same resonance. So we're building that into the framework. And we're building, here's another thing, and I'll say this and I'm done. I'm not building like I need to give up tomorrow. Okay? This is the most important thing. If you've been doing something that you know is what you are divinely in line to do, don't stop because of whatever you see going on around you. You're getting distracted. Finish it. Don't be like, oh, well, I guess I'm too late. Too late for what? You're late for yourself. Everything that you do will not be in vain. When you're in alignment, trust. If you trust and you know yourself, I trust and I know myself. This is what's led me up until this point so far. Why would I betray it? Why would I betray me? I was talking about this 10 years and preparing for this 10 years in advance, getting others prepared 10 years in advance. I trusted that when others were like, you left all that or you're doing that. So that's going to continue though, because this is not about doing the I told you so. Like I saw Cliff High the other day. He broke down crying and everything. I didn't want to be the right. I didn't want it to be the truth. Well, you shouldn't have been speaking all that doom and gloom then. You should have been backing it up with the balance. Because then you wouldn't feel like you need to cry for people. You would understand that you should now cheer for them. I'm cheering for this tribe. I'm watching folks in ambassador training fortified and strong. They're in the best condition that if anything happens, they're going to keep going with their existence because you're going to have to keep going on anyway. But if you get dishonored, betrayed, all the attitude of the underworld gods, and if you feel like that is happening to you, that puts you in that vibration. It exposes you to that. So you're more wiser than that. You were trained better than that. Your great grandparents, your ancestors, your telomeres, they've been treating you a certain way so that you can enjoy something beyond what you can even think about. Beyond petty matters such as life and death and angels and demons and light and darkness. Beyond internets and 5Gs and coronas. All of that. Something undescribable. And you get there anyway. So this is now time for you to spend this time that you have, since you've been given this time of rest, and somebody's even forking the bill over right now. If you're saying I'm doomed and I don't have any money, stuff is wrong, you're not on the phone. You need to get on the phone then and figure out and call up the folks that are there to assist, and they will assist you. But if you're still sitting there balled up and you think that it's all over with, you're going to be standing like that and it's going to keep going. So that's the wisdom and the knowledge that I'm going to give you today. I wanted to say also thanks so much to the pillars, those who have been in this. Also to the new members that are just coming in. If this all today just maybe it popped up in your stream because YouTube delivered it to you, you're in the right place. If it doesn't make sense, you can start going through the videos, taking the breaths, joining the meditations, and it'll click. This is not something that you have to spend thousands of years trying to figure out. This is something that you already know, and I'm just here to remind you. So, wholeness and balance vibrations. I'll see everyone 7 a.m. tomorrow morning for the meditation as we keep it going. Also, Secret Energy TV is live. If you actually click on the browse button, we can see kind of like what kind of server load is taking out the patient. The page is taking a little bit of time to load. We're working on the cache and different things that make that go faster. Let me see if I have any more. If you feel like that you're at the house, you need support, we're working to do something also with specialist training, because there's about 3,800 specialists getting a group together. We just don't want everybody in there with no plan. So we're putting together like a directive for specialists. And then also, if you have the financial wherewithal, you can also jump into ambassador training. Lots of value there. It's only $79 a month. And in that, you get everything. There's even stuff there that's not on YouTube. We share as much as we can with this channel, but we like to put a lot of stuff in for the meditations, the curriculum, and those things. Even those things right now, we're also sharing in Secret Energy TV. So again, there's so much abundance here. There's also others. It's not just me. Like if I'm the central character in the theme, then that means we utterly failed. What I do is I make sure that everyone that is around me is endowed with the same knowledge and the same blueprint that I have to go through every single day, and I have to exist with every day. And it keeps bringing more and more gems. It keeps aligning things up more and more. And as we get into the clarity of what this reality is becoming, we'll finally be able to breathe. The quality of air is going to go up. The influence that's coming from the stars is going to go up. All the crazy rituals, which were rituals that were happening with the Olympics. They go around the world with this Olympics, putting everybody in this ring. They got the Masonic 11 and 11 going on the field. Red versus blue team. All that is done. Why is that happening? You're only seeing what's on CNN? Or are you seeing what's in the metaphysical realm? See metaphysical, because that actually gets you to see everything before it's going to take place. And also remember, we talked about this happening already. And there was also things that we talked about that were going to happen after this. So meaning that we're not just in real time. Like some of these people have these messages, they're like real time. See, I told you what's going to happen. Well, tell me what's going to happen next then. If you knew this was going to happen, what's going to happen next? That being should be able to go through the blueprint and say, this is what's going to happen next. The paranormal activity is going to increase as others continue to make their sound alignments. And that is going to be made known to them. This is what you're aligned to. Knowledge is going and wisdom is going to increase. It's going to become so clear. You're going to see stuff published that you've never seen. Now we got actual pictures of Marduk now coming across the internet. Actual pictures of the Jesus. And as I said, not the GQ magazine version. To see what people are aligning their planet to. We got knowledge, or aligning their planet to. We got knowledge showing us, here are the beings that are associated with this symbolism. This is why this symbolism shows up so much. We talked about that in ambassador training when you see the symbolism around Inanna, the 8-pointed star, the lead doves, her affiliation with Saturn, her affiliation with Venus, the cat, her attacking snakes all the time. All of the stuff that you see in the reality. Like I said, they put you in an 8-sided box and they release the doves in the air and they fire off a couple rounds if you're in the military. And that's all initiation of the Nana, goddess of regeneration and death. So when you know these traits, which are a part of Enneology, that's the Enneagram, that's the Ennead, the 9 gods. So when you know all of that, you don't have to, but if you have some time on your hands and you're done with your meditation, this is what you get to do. And it lets you know everything about yourself as you internalize it. Think about what was being said about these meditations and how this energy is being transmuted. That's predominantly done because one is bringing it inside of their body and then they're transmuting it inside. See that sometimes no different than that we're becoming aware of a certain kind of energy that's here. We're no longer neglecting it. But we're also seeing our part in that and how we played a resonance to that field being able to maintain and establish itself. And then internally, we're deciding through experience that that's not really where we want to align that's not what we really want to align ourselves with. So we're disavowing, we're untethering, we're no longer working for that anymore. And then also you're given the time and the space to figure out what you're going to do then. If you're not going to work for them anymore, I guess you're going to go work for yourself. So how do you even start off to know what you should really become? Discovering your uniqueness. Enneology.com, you could check it out already and start looking at your number and seeing your traits. If you want to go deeper, we've opened that up in ambassador training. You got phase 3, phase 4, stuff already coming out. Diet, things that are specific to you. And then that's going to build you up instead of building somebody else up. Building something else up. It's going to build you up. That's why the $79 we're talking about a month, that's a love offering. That's not how much it costs. It's priceless. We put as much value as possible. Premiums are there to keep us growing. And you also have 2 years at least. Well, there's more than 2 years, but you have 2 years of fresh, step-by-step transitional knowledge that on your spare time, you can go in deep with yourself, go into meditations and things that the master teachers have already bought that are inside of our group. So there is no other solutions than what you have already. They're right in front of you. And just know that we're here with you in and outside of time. If we have to pull up like an ambulance on the astral plane, then here we are. If you're just jumping into the ship and taking your station, that's great too. Let's just do this together. Wholeness and balanced vibrations. I'll see everybody in a little bit.